to another lap of F-Zero ending it all. Last time, Dr. Clash has actually committed suicide, and it was sort of canceled out because Zoda was actually frozen, then shattered by Rick and Tinsel. They escaped from Port Town, and Captain Falcon has recently discovered something very peculiar inside their machines. A reactor mite. What does this mean? Well, you're about to find out. Alright, lap 10. Rick and company lost Dr. Clash in a fatal crash last lap. Now they have a week until the next challenge. What was inside the F-Zero machines that made Falcon so surprised? So the task force heard that Mr. ED will participate in the next race amongst other minions from Dark Million, where it's going to be in Cosmo Terminal. As an android, he may have the upper hand with all the calculations he would make, taking whichever path is the most effective. Although we must be aware but of the lack of guardrails, even if they were daring enough to switch over to another path without falling to their deaths. Fortunately, the gang would have about a week to prepare for the nefarious course, which would give them time to not only train themselves, but also mourn over the death of their fallen tragic hero, Dr. Theodore Clash. However, things were also turning in their favor since Zoda actually bit the dust as well. Meanwhile, Captain Falcon discovered 2 reactor mites. One was stored in the Dragonbird while the other was housed in the Silver Comet. He too also had a reactor mite in his own machine. He was surprised that they were found inside each of Clash's prototype vehicles. Falcon was desperate on retuning these 2, as using the mites themselves could make them nearly unstoppable and turn the tides in the war against Black Shadow. He was incredibly shocked to find out several months ago that the Emperor of Brutality was alive. He saw his so-called death just before he confronted his former master Deathborn. If you remember GX, you would know. He hypothesized that his own demise resulted in his resurrection as well as the loss of the creator spirit since they won't be able to revive their diabolical associate by replacing parts of his body with mechanical ones, which was done 3 times now. And from here, this is actually from F-Zero GP Legend. Last time he saw Black Shadow was during an assignment by Dr. Stewart saving Clash, but the crazy bear behind his Zoda captured him. Falcon recognized he was a bounty fugitive, and he was later introduced to Rick Wheeler, whom he said had a 150-year history with them. He had seen him several times while he raced, and he managed to beat him single-handedly. From the brief encounter at Planet Ninte to saving the Dragonbird from an orphan at Forno. Again, from the anime. Things have changed this time around, as he noticed that Black Shadow had a drastic increase in recruits during the raid at Planet Alcatran. His squad was later known as Dark Million, and aside from Zoda and Blood, there were new, more lethal troops such as his old rival Pico, Biorex, Octoman, Baba, and recently Miss Killer and Skull. It seems the chains of death have been broken over him. Now he's causing more havoc across the universe. But there's still hope. He closed the hood to the Dragonbird. Hearing a noise, someone followed him into the garage. He was a bit uneasy that the mysterious stranger was still in there. Falcon, you're still here? Ah, yes, Rick. I had just found something peculiar in the Silver Comet. Oh? What is it? It has an unusual substance implanted in its body, something very rare. This could be volatile if not used properly. She has a reactor mite. Reactor mite? What's that? Those cannot be found easily, even with the most advanced technology. They are bursts of energy that were created after the birth of our solar system. According to legend, there are 6 located throughout, and if they are obtained, they could utilize unsurmountable power. If any of them, or if all 6, manage to fall into evil hands, it could mean unexplainable annihilation. And she has one? And we didn't even know it? It's likely that Dr. Clash knew. This was only a prototype. So is yours, Rick. We may not know the answers now that he's gone. I too have one, as do you. What? But how? That I can't explain, nor how they were contained. Still, Black Shadow should never obtain these celestial bodies. He already has 2 of them in his Black Bull. If we can use the remaining mites to our advantage, we could win this war. I believe the tides can turn in our favor. How is this even possible? I have a reactor mite. So does Falcon and Tinsel. What could this mean? Before Falcon left, he offered Rick to go with him to Port Town until the next race. The bounty hunter was hesitant because of the mayhem from Dark Million, but he felt he didn't have a choice. Get some rest. You're going to need it. For what? Your training. The next day, Rick informed the group saying that he'll head to Port Town for the week and practice with Falcon. Really? Maybe you'll get to learn some of his secrets. I might be able to spend some time with Leon before the race. I'll just be standing by here, being a prestigious mechanic just how the late doctor was. You're a lucky man, Ricky. I can't understand why he would choose you as his personal trainee. You better learn well. I'll do my best, Jack. But that left Tinsel butterflies in her stomach. She couldn't stand being in the same place as that loud-mouthed, cocky bastard. Don't worry, Tinsel. I'll be back before you know it. I won't be too long. They even hugged for a short time. He wished he could bring her along. This was only a session for just him and Falcon. When he reached the elevator, Clank was standing inside the shaft. Oh, hey! Better get used to being on the 17th floor. Ooh, it's extremely high. So I hear you're training with Falcon? Yes, I am. What brings you here? Well, I was hoping I'd check in using your dragon bird and see what Falcon has in store. I know this is wrong, but I think we should see what he does. Only when he teaches you, of course. He's obviously got something up his sleeve. All right, you have my permission. Yeah! Thanks, Rick. We can see you using the central computer. We can't wait to watch you run Falcon in action. Godspeed, champion. He was a bit confused as to why the pilot would share his strategies only to Rick. What was this thing they had in common aside from being gifted racers? Although one piece of info was accurate, he does live somewhere in Port Town rather than Mute City as anyone would commonly believe. Using the coordinates submitting, he met the Blue Falcon close to the warp gate. I will escort you to my home, Rick. Keep your eyes open for possible threats. I will. I always do. With the iconic machine leading the way toward a desolate harbor, Falcon informed his trainee on a secret that has never been mentioned to anyone. Because of his endless success, and since he had so many enemies, the constant dangers forced him to live in a sanctuary on a chain of islands off the coast of Port Town, where he spent most of his time. His desire for solitude is such that even after winning a race, he takes his reward and quickly dashes home. Even with a victory earned, he doesn't stay for very long. In fact, only the chance to compete in the F-Zero Grand Prix or getting a high bounty lure Captain Falcon away from his archipelago fortress. Falcon was the most renowned racer ever, and before X started after the horrific accident during the 7-year ban, he honed in some underground races. Thus, that was when the islands came to be. No wonder he's very elusive. I bet it's hard to afford all that living space. Why does he always have to work alone? They contained a different track, allowing him to keep his racing skills at their peak while remaining relatively safe. You must never tell anyone about any of this, not even what I'm about to show you. It was in a dark alley. It was behind Falcon as he exited their vehicles. The scanner read his identity despite the visor covering half his face. Come. They walked down a dark corridor. Falcon entered an encrypted code, and Rick was greeted by a very bright light. Shielded his eyes, but by the time they adjusted, he was agog at what he saw. Apparently, this was Falcon's garage where it consisted of spacecraft on a giant white ledge. They drove in and made themselves at home. Wow! So this is the expert's own abode. I've never seen anything like it. He gazed upon the long ship with its green wings, narrow roof, and elongated body. That's the Falcon Flyer. I only use it for transport across the galaxy when there's no warp gate accessible. It also has a supercomputer and helps track down some opportunities for bounty. Detectives saw upon many awards that went as far back as the F-Max Grand Prix. It's the secret chamber with all his awards and plaques for his work in the Intergalactic Police Force a long time ago. Incredible. The one that really fixed his eyes was a giant belt. Its centerpiece casted its reflection in a translucent goldenrod hue. He heard about Falcon winning at the Mute City race last year where he and Tinsel dealt with Black Shadow and Blood Falcon. He hadn't earned anything like this before. He decided to touch it and... Are you ready? Ha ha ha! An unusual voice greeted him, and he saw 3 phantasmal beings fly around in a trippy scene, with 2 blue falcons in the middle of it. One of them looked as if it was an illusion. Falcon, shall I tell you something before you die? Spoke in a vehement, unnatural tone. It was a scorching, hot, dim-lit area where he thought was hell, complete with lava and a thick, sinister atmosphere. There was also sharp spikes protruding from a course. Dark and light, the 2 great forces which govern our universe. These 2 universal forces are condensed in each of our belts. Didn't you know? At the moment when the 2 forces become one, it's possible to seize that power. Then I can turn this whole galaxy into ashes in an instant. His head started to throb and he had an electric current run through him. How I've waited for this moment. The world will fall into total darkness. I'll keep winning. He was wearing the merged belt which glowed around his waist. Rick set his hands away, as if it caught on fire. Rick, are you all right? Falcon, I saw something when I was touched that championship belt. Oh? What did you see? I saw you. Some distorted world with 3 ghosts. There were 2 blue falcons. Then I was in hell and saw you with some evil being with absolute power. There were 2 belts soaring in the air, and he said something about dark and light, the 2 forces that control the universe. He said they will eventually become one. He can use that power to incinerate the entire Milky Way instantly. I'm not sure who he is or where those plans were, but I also felt a shock run through my body. Finally, I saw you cheering and wearing that belt. It must have been very potent. Still, I can't understand why it was there when everyone else can win it. It's destiny. He must have been chosen. Indeed, I was there during those tumultuous times, Rick. I too have seen crazy things from that sacred belt. That was how I obtained a reactor mite, but it was stuck in the middle between yin and yang. Those with a pure heart or a dark one, as well as tremendous skill, can utilize it. Being that you have seen me and dealt with those visions, I believe that only you can prevent Black Shadow from prevailing. Falcon, why me? What can I do that no one else can't? Maybe the better question is, why do you think I let you come along? We don't have much time to chat. Are you ready for your training? Let's do it. On the Falcon's control pad, he set up the simulation. Rick went into his own cockpit, and they both saw the white walls transform into a city course complete with guardrails in the starting line. However, it was empty. It only had some dash plates, but no capsules this time. From there, Falcon stated to Rick he must watch him perform a secret technique known as the booster fire. He described it as a rapid spin attack, while at the same time the machine gets a drastic increase in speed. Unfortunately, the safety features had to be turned off. Wait, what? You're kidding! No safety restraints? Yes, Rick, which is why it'll be able to move more freely. The lanes were massive, making the perfect place for using it. Watch me closely. Booster fire! If you guys see me anime, you should know this. Drifted faster and harder. Dashboard lit up as bright as a Christmas tree. Spun so blindingly fast it almost looked as if it was hardly rotating at all. In addition, the Blue Falcon was covered in its own energy in a lethal cyclonic disk. It cruised further and further away, though Rick was very astonished. It eventually caught up to him, and it was soon his turn as they made one lap. This looks very dangerous with or without any safety nets. I guess anything goes when you try to win. Not sure if you're either really foolish or just plain lucky. He was starting to get more jealous. How was Falcon able to learn this and master it without breaking a single bone? You don't win by being lucky. You win by being bold. You are not bold. You're insane! You sure have a lot to learn, novice. You must take chances in order to be the very best. Never let anything hold you back. Now you. Come on, get out of here. Sure is persistent. Alright, let's do this. Shut down the auxiliary controls and his machine became much harder to handle, swerving all over the place. Kept a keen eye on him. His machine fell back, allowing Rick more leverage. This is a lot harder than it looks. Just keep your dragon bird steady. Get used to it. It needs more time to literally open and spread its wings. By the time they crossed over the line again, Rick was bravely keeping the maneuvers in check. He had a more firmer grip, and Falcon gave him the signal to do the incredible. Now, Rick! Do it! Show me your move! He copied each one of Falcon's actions by pulling back the nozzle and accelerating. Booster fire! He ran across the dash plate, and the Dragon Bird was in a similar dazzling field of blazing energy. From the driver's seat, he could hardly see what was ahead as he tried adjusting his eyes through the neon blue flames. The turns were too much, and Rick began to lose control. He found himself colliding onto one side of the course, then the other. He was helpless as he couldn't stop its path. Ah! Rick! Blue Falcon sped ahead of the demolition, which was still moving. Immediately stopped in the center of the course with the doomed Dragon Bird gradually screeching to a halt. It came to a complete stop, as if he commanded it to. The craft itself retained its normal appearance, only it was bashed in a few places. Rick! Rick! He tried waking him up, but he only let out a weak moan. Falcon. He lifted him toward his base. Before he shut down the system, he was able to use a grappling hook from his trunk and pull the Dragon Bird. A few hours later, Rick was placed in an opaque room on a thermal bed. Falcon replaced the cloth on his forehead with a warmer one, and then he gave him a bowl of lukewarm broth. He was able to sip it slowly as it touched his lips. He also gave him a spoonful of honey. Rick's shoulders were bandaged as his upper arm. Eventually, day turned into night until he finally came to. Falcon, I failed the booster. I know. Glad to see you came around. You shouldn't rush yourself on healing. You still have nearly 6 days left. Felt so helpless in his own body, barely even moving a limb, or having no sense of feeling. Sometimes he felt like he was being crushed. Rest well, Rick. When you're ready, we'll resume tomorrow. You've been through a lot. Didn't take too long for the injured initiate to doze off. When Rick examined the hood after a couple days of recuperation, he opened up the canister, revealing one reactor mite. He recalled this astonished even Falcon at headquarters. He was still wearing the bandage on his shoulder and forehead. This is the reactor mite. You have one of them. Clash must have done this for a reason. Since then he knew Rick was someone profound, so he dedicated him as his first and only promising student. Why are you showing me all this? I doubt you have demonstrated your personal turf to someone else. How am I an exception? Tinsel and her duelist friends Yuki and Joey made a couple brief visits. Regardless, I've seen you race, Rick. Multiple times, in fact. You truly have the heart and skill of an exceptional F-Zero racer. You seem to have the blood of a champion for a new generation, even though you came from a far older one. New generation? But I've been asleep for more than 150 years. How can I possibly make a difference? What matters is what's inside you. What's not significant is when you come from, or what machine is being used to win races. Who and what made the Blue Falcon so fast is actually irrelevant. It comes from within. As long as the pilot is one with his own machine, nothing else is important. Everyone is unique. Do not let those other factors enter your mind. It must be clear and sharp, and the heart must be pure to achieve anything. Falcon. I can assure you your Dragonbird can handle it. Trying to make the machine spin with the power of a booster and keeping your speed in corners is difficult. Because of the burden placed on the vehicle itself, it can only be used once per race. Since you only have one mite, it can be used once. It should be operated wisely, for if the dragon would lose balance, or if it would break down with too much input, your machine will lose control. Heed my warning. You and I are not the only ones. I had seen Black Shadow use this technique. Only his is the Blackfire, as it has a darker aura than us. It's likely others in Dark Million might have had it as well. You must be careful, especially with no safety nets. Sure is risky, though it must be done. I will show you everything I know, so listen well, Rick. I'm ready when you are. Mentor. After a week of vigorous training, both Rick and Falcon entered together at the Cosmo Terminal, the Trident Circuit. This might branch out to a few guidance, side stories as they call it. Answers a mystery investigation, or an anime. I'm sure viewers will be confused with the time placement, so here's the scoop. The original F-Zero was set in 2560, then there was X, which took place 7 years later, then 4 years later there was GX, then ending it all. Next, Rick has been awakened from cold sleep after 150 years, but it won't be in 2051, but rather in 2412. The intro's kind of wrong, but what choice did I have? Which means Rick was involved in races that were toned down after the F-Max races, hence the Formula 1-esque ones. The F-Max Grand Prix was the predecessor of the F-Zero Grand Prix. Not much is known about these races, only that the races were 200 years in 2360 before the F-Zero Grand Prix was founded, and the races were very bloody in that time. The F-Max Grand Prix was ended after a huge crash in the finals, when some participants were burned alive. Sterling Levon, aka the Skull, was the prime survivor through mind-bending science and black magic. Never played Climax that much. I truly think the F-Zero would be. And here are the lists of the booster fires. There's the one for the anime, Boost fire is boosting. Actually, I call it booster fire because of how they actually call it. Booster fire! To me, it's actually booster. There's also the black fire in the anime. Black Bull, machines. Da-da-da. There's a little spoiler here, full power boost fire, but he won't use it until, like, a little later. So, yeah. Games, yeah, it does matter what machine you use, whichever has the best stats depending on the player's liking. Anime, it sounds more mystical. For the longest time, I've always wondered why Rick was the savior of the galaxy, or how the reactor mites were obtained. I suppose they were open-ended questions that can't be answered by actual means. It was so complicated to comprehend, but I think this would explain things much more simpler. That's not to say I hate the Japanese dubs. I just miss the English ones so much, and the series would be altered a bit here. Like I said before, the next lap or two would branch out to side stories. So stand by for that. For Leon and Lucy, and Beastman and Vyrax. So, there you have it. Lap 10 of Ending It All is done. So, next time, we are probably going to tackle both guidance, and I don't know, if it takes too long, maybe I'll divide it into 2 parts. Until then, this is the Ekron Rider signing out. shorter version of that song. I'm sorry, I tried, but that song is pretty long, so if you want to skip it, just skip it. Anyway, hey guys, welcome back to another episode of F-Zero Ending It All. Last time, Captain Falcon has actually trained Rick Wheeler in using the booster fire, to which that he failed, but he's still willing to train with Falcon. And the Cosmo Terminal is coming up, which Dark Million, along with their new associate, Mr. EAD, would be participating in. Believe it or not, this will actually be the quarterfinals, and this is like 2 story arcs. Probably 3 story arcs in this. So, let's get this over with. Right, lap 11. The task force are becoming more desperate for the race in Cosmo Terminal. Would Falcon's training pay off? What would the team know about the uncovered secrets from him, Leon, and Beastman? I'll try and keep this short. Tinsel was becoming more anxious day by day. Having Jack and Lucy around wasn't the same without Rick. What really was starting to get under his skin was, I'm gonna go with Leon. He's a really sweet guy despite his animalistic ways. I don't care what anyone says. Doesn't the inside count? What should I wear? Okay, you're in love with Leon. We see that. Jack, the brash home wrecker, replied as he raised his hands. Oh, great. Now I'm alone with this egotistical, self-deluded, brainless... Something interrupted his self-ranting as the team heard a buzz. From the surveillance, the pilot saw 2 others approach the main entrance. Oh, it's him! It's Leon! And they came too! She saw Beastman and Clank. Jack chased the duo down, and the lift descended to the ground floor. Mademoiselle! Wow, you are such a hunk, Leon! She kissed him on the cheek, and he smiled and panted. Jack was a bit disgusted by it and envious. Hey guys, what's up? Why can't Tracker, Homer, and Shio come along? Oh, the Huck miners won't come because they're still trying to improve on their racing. And Drac is busy with Roger as well. Ah, so it's just you and Clank then? Tinsel was a bit disappointed that not all her friends would check out the base. She was hopeful that they'll be able to see the duel between Rick and Falcon if Clank is successful. That chamber is like a hacker's playground. I'll see to it that we'll watch the race in no time. Hold up, buddy. You're not an elite member yet. We don't allow outsiders here. So do me a favor, make like a tree and leave, will ya? Jack! This is no way to treat our guests. Yeah, especially to a cutie. Besides, we're accepting Clank, aren't we? So how is he any different? Don't worry, I found him. I'll keep an eye on him. All right, fine. Perfect. But you better not slip up. As Leon and Lucy left, the Shining Star offered the masked man to grab a bite to eat at the Falcon House. Clank accepted while Jack stayed to watch over the fort. There he explained during their breakfast was served. So tell me, how did you become such a great beast hunter? Because let me tell you, we have never ever seen anyone like you in the F-Zero circuit before. Except maybe Falcon. You're much like him, only not with bounty hunting, but with animal hunting. And you two seem very mysterious with your dinosaur costume. Are you planning to take it off? Clank! Mind your manners, boy. Anyway, did you start when you were very young? The boss was listening closely while washing dishes. His name was Christopher Annex, and when he was a kid, he had a traumatic childhood experience with gators. With Planet White, he was nearly killed by a giant crocodile and was left scarred for life, both physically and emotionally. His family had always been shrouded with danger, much like Octoman. Thankfully, his world hadn't fallen under war and poverty, unlike Leon's. To hide the shyness that dwelled within him, he donned the Beastman persona and created the outfit from a real dinosaur hide to give himself an awe-inspiring figure. Wow! You actually still have living, breathing dinosaurs there? Awesome! Yes, although we have to stay alert for any of the vicious carnivores there. The herbivores and omnivores aren't much of a threat. Total Tinsel could totally relate to that event as she too was stricken with an endless dread after the near-death incident on not crossing the 50-foot gap in Whiteland. He's been in Planet Alcatraz before, and he understood her fear entirely, as his trauma was done by a crocodile. If I could somehow overcome that fear, I may lose this dino facade. But how I became the galaxy's best beast warrior is simple enough. He was also a soldier, and his deadly sharpshooting skills and aggressive tendencies made him feared by the beasts he hunted. His occupation made him quite popular and a hero to many people. Once he had eliminated all the dangerous creatures from his home world, he decided to enter the F-Zero X Grand Prix to promote himself and for anybody wishing to employ his services. Couldn't thank the late Dr. Clash enough for converting an old piece of military machinery into the prized Tiger Speeder. First year of racing that he knew Bio-Rex, he was designing Curelon Corporation. He competed in X and GX with a vow to protect the other pilots and crowd for Bio-Rex in case the creature ever decided to go rogue. Became a deadly foe as he later found out he was part of Dark Million. At one point, he stated to Mr. Zero that he wanted to make a helmet out of Bio-Rex as a reward, even though he had sworn to the state to defend everyone from Bio-Rex's wrath if he should go wild. He wanted to put him in extinction. The Hyper Speeder and I are a really unbeatable team, and both F-Zero racing and beast hunting require dedication. A moment's hesitation can mean the difference between life and death. Maybe you should join us in the mobile task force. You're so devoted. He did, but he declined as they only wanted to win prize money from Dark Million's clutches. However, since Octane and Bio-Rex are a part of it, he now wished to assist the Galaxy Platoon indirectly. He did appreciate Baba being wiped out back at the Big Blue race. He encountered Bio-Rex at his home planet using aggressive beasts, especially the humans and mammoths. Remember when I helped you out at a green plant? That's why I'm here. She couldn't be any more grateful for that. Thanks to the data provided by Clank, Bio-Rex was designed by the Curelon Corporation like Chris mentioned. Geez, didn't we learn anything from Jurassic Park? Well, it's actually very similar to that. He was actually arrested once by Captain Falcon at the time of the first Grand Prix. That bastard! How can anyone escape from him? I swear I'll be the one to put an end to him. Mark my words, I may have plans to capture Octoman as well. This made Tinsel uneasy with him. He's only been misunderstood. He's just doing this to save his homeworld to Cora. They're not as lucky as you, Chris. Octoman and his family have always been hunted, both by predators and even the Federation. He just needs some help. This was a first for Leon on the subject of X. However, he later didn't have a desire in abducting him, as he's considered to be a tame, warm-hearted creature. Whew, that's a relief. He happens to be a very good friend of mine, and he helped Tinsel save Rick. He too loves Lucy, and he was an excellent busboy. I would love to employ him again if he wasn't too busy and sad all the time. All right, you got me. But I have to wonder, what does he do there? The guys and the gals told him everything. Another middle finger to the anime that despised how Beastman and Leon got one episode. Well, actually, they were both in one episode in which Beastman hunts Leon, and Leon was actually a werewolf. What? What the hell? This isn't supposed to be like that. God, I hate their ideas. So they were walking down because of their charm and their tender-heartedness. They were close. Gave him utmost respect, followed by Birdies gave him a job, Tinsel next, then Rick. Most of the inhabitants were giving them some stares and comments behind their backs because of the interracial couple. Despite the diversity of all life forms across the universe, still the coyote and caretaker greatly support each other. Leon told Lucy that he was first introduced to F-Zero during the X competition, much like Beastman, Octoman, and many others. He was treated unfairly due to his appearance. He was motivated as he held a promise to assist the planet South from poverty. He earned extra money. He became a busman for the Falcon House. He was a soccer coach for the children, then head of an orphanage. Coincidentally, he was one himself. Then told Lucy on when he met Tinsel how she wanted to help out his predicament. So this is actually a recap of lap 4. So, like I said, just read it yourself. This is actually a recap of lap 4, so I probably should have eliminated this. Oh well. At the same spot where Rick and Haruka sat 150 years ago, Lucy and Leon had a table looking toward the city. You're a good dog, Leon, and you don't have to feel embarrassed on loving me. You have every right to. Dean leaned in for a kiss, though he playfully licked her instead. She could do nothing but giggle the whole way through. Back at the Falcon House, Clank's tablet was going through a disturbance. The screen went blank for a few seconds, then revealed a blurry image of a fat F-Zero machine with points protruding from it. Hey guys, I see something! The Black Bull? Black Shadow? What? Then as the portable returned to normal, schematics came up. No, it isn't. Something named the Big Fang. Machine made by the Curelon Corp. Biorex! Chris, wait! Clank, stay here. Chris, let me go with you. I owe you that much after you saved me from him at Greenplant. He's too dangerous to take on by yourself. Sure, Tinsel. What's he doing in Mute City? I don't know. I have to stop him. Wait for me! The Big Fang hits like a tank, so it won't be easy. He recalled it was designed to have a high top speed and a tight grip, making it fit well with the pilot's aggressiveness. Its exterior was as hard as titanium steel, though it can make a slow crawl before it reaches its maximum acceleration. By process of elimination, Tinsel decided to call Gomer and Shio as their last hope to assist Beastman in bringing Biorex to custody. He was able to reach Lucy and Leon. They only saw it whiz past them, with the Sharpedo-esque hover car nearing its crosshairs. Chris was closing in at the crowded streets as he was creating a path of mayhem and destruction. Both pedestrians and objects were at its deadly mercy. People were gasping and yelping everywhere, though the clustered roads were no place for a battlefield. We'll never catch him! Not here! God damn you! I won't let you cause any more harm! The twin Narita hardly cut Rex off as did the Astro Robin. His savage reflexes caused him to swerve and hit the foundation of the building with numerous glass windows. The shorts reached down on it, but the fangs still pressed on. Jack! I thought you were at headquarters! Lucy and Leon just showed up. I don't want to miss on the action. We're here too, Tinsel. Okay, let's stick to it then! Twin Narita was weak as a styrofoam cup, but light, making it a nice distraction. So was the Comet. The hyperspeeder had better cornering, but a slighter appeal in her body. It was prone to being wrecked, as with the dual-turbine craft, but they never gave up. The Astro Robin had just enough velocity, but a decent strength as it continually clashed with the monster. Reckless Rex eventually had enough. He's heading to the freeway! Better than being on the streets. She was the fastest to keep up with the brute and distracted him with a side attack. Then only left a blemish and he retaliated, running to come into a metallic rail. Ah! He's crushing me! I hadn't gotten it fully repaired yet! Tinsel. Of course. He used the same tactic he did before while he made a sub-bin attack at the Big Fang's rear. It was enough to clip it, and the Biorex lost control. Everyone, brace yourselves! Rotated faster until it slid to a guardrail on the opposing side. Crush catapulted Biorex about 3 feet into the air. Gomar and Shio caught the lizard and went berserk as he bashed the glass. They hit the brakes, tossing him next to a nearby truck. The runaway craft crashed into the corner of it, making the ship tip over. Little did the onlookers or the Cretaceous creature knew it was filled with manure! I got a little inspiration for Back to the Future. Lost his balance and it fell into the 300-pound pile of poop. Manure! I hate manure! They can't help but laugh at that. Although Beastman was able to compose himself as he harnessed his long-awaited captive. He had his jaws in a nozzle. Tased, then was cuffed, and thrown into the cargo area behind the cockpit of the hyperspeeder. Great! Now it's gonna smell like short predator carcasses. What should we do with that? Chris suggested that instead of being blown up, like Jack recommended, it'll be used for spare parts. Look, I gotta go somewhere to apprehend this Jurassic jerk. There's a jail not too far from here, Busy. You should take him there, although the cell's gonna stink to high heaven, and Rex may get dangerous if he has to be hosed down. Hurry back for the race! Thanks, guys. I'll be back in a jiffy. He couldn't feel any more excited now that Biorex has reached the prison. The correction officers would have a field day with this one. By the time the Cosmo Terminal competition was a day away, Clank was hogging the central computer. He was hacking and typing his fingers off until he eventually saw a cockpit view from the Dragon Bird. Rick was just about to begin a duel between him and Falcon on a Port Town course with multiple dash plates and jumps. Even a more dramatic one was up ahead. According to the intel, it was known as the Aero Dive, and it was only a simulation. Clank contacted Rick, and he was looking forward for them to watch. I'm in position, Clank. Ready when you are. Jeez, what happened? Never mind that. There was just an accident while I was practicing with Falcon. It's pretty common. I mean, you can tell he's the best. Where are you anyway? I'm at headquarters. I'm using the central computer so we can watch you. This is the last day before the Cosmo Terminal race. Yes, it is. Rick, let's go. We need to do this. Right. I'm on it, Falcon. The starting gate was activated and the fences holding the machines lowered. The countdown commenced and Clank was just as jittery as the trainee was. Guys, hurry up! Rick is gonna start the race against Falcon. Easy, mate. Yeah, we're here. Give Falcon everything you got. All of Tinsel's friends but Drac, Joey, and Yugi were there. The gentle giant was on a delivery with Roger, while the young duelists were facing some threat that went as far back as 10,000 years. The signal went off, and the Dragon Bird was very close to the Blue Falcon. You won't be able to beat me, Rick. This is my turf. We'll see about that. At first they were fighting over the dash plates and the jumps kept making them feel more giddy. Then they went to an incline and 3 more plates greeted the pair just before the awesome leap. They felt they were soaring like the birds of prey, but it only lasted for a couple seconds. Next came more hops, a sharp left turn, and 2 more dashes. Finally, there was a pit area to the left and a couple speed boosts to the right before the finish line. On the second lap, it was definitely accelerating stretch as one was using them, while the other boosted just to get ahead. It was rinse and repeat till they entered the goal. All right, Rick. Final lap. Show me what your Dragon Bird can do. Rick was hesitant as he recollected the incident that happened almost 5 days ago. He wasn't sure if he was ready to use the booster fire now. Meanwhile, the pilots at headquarters were anxious. What does he mean? What's he waiting for? What does Falcon have in mind? Whatever it is, it should explain why he's an unbeatable racer. Look! Something's happening to the Blue Falcon! They all had their eyes glued straight at the screen, watching the machine glow as if a Pokemon was evolving. Energy was building up, and it began to spin as fast as a tornado. They could barely hear the scream from the neighboring opponent. Booster Fire! What's going on? No one had ever seen anything like it, let alone Falcon's vehicle. What's it doing? Wheeler, this must be Falcon's secret move. Watch out! Rick? Rick! His comms turned off, but we can still see him. They were miles from the home front, and Rick just kept seeing his rival take the upper hand. Finally cast his doubts aside. It's time now. Here I come, Falcon. Booster Fire! He held the wheel tightly as he managed to catch up to the bounty hunter on the straightaway. He looked behind and saw his opponent. Rick! On the right, he ran over the dash plates while Rick was on the pit area to the left. They were neck to neck until the screen went into static, making the pilots edgy and confused. They were outraged at the sudden malfunction, but outside, the winner was... No way! Falcon was frantic that his one true match managed to beat him. Rick was successful in performing the booster fire, but the spectators didn't know what that amazing technique was. The resolution returned to normal, and they only saw two idle machines, making them have a constant debate on who won. Since the Dragon Bird had a higher boost rate than Falcon's by just one level alone, he was able to accomplish the race just mere seconds before him. Needless to say, Falcon was incredibly shocked that his own booster fire wasn't enough to complete it in time, and the fact that he hardly lost one, let alone on his personal private domain. Rick tried to block out as much of the dizziness as his poor head could, momentarily saw his mentor standing over him, and soon grabbed his hand. With a grin, the bounty hunter advised him to watch his boost times if he should use it again, particularly in the Cosmo Terminal. Dragon's comm started to chirp. Rick ran to it and called for Clank. The foggy monitor cleared, revealing the kid's disturbed face. Rick? Who won? We were arguing about it. Who won this race? All he did was just smile. I did. What? You beat Falcon? How was that even possible? What did you do? Well, Falcon taught me a special technique, the booster fire. What's that? I've never heard of it. I'll explain more later. I must prepare for the upcoming race at the Cosmo Terminal. I'll tell you once I leave Port Town. I still can't believe you were able to best Falcon. No one is any faster than him. But I am. Then his face glowed both internally and externally as the simulation ended. He and Falcon were back in the garage again. He looked around for a brief while and ended the call. We're inside Falcon's base again. Rick out. He slumped onto the seat. Wow. That was fun. Yeah, it was, Clank. Rick won. He must be the new champion. That guy's got a lot of spunk. That's Ricky for ya. We can win this next race, for sure. You're not too far off. Tomorrow, Cosmo Terminal will be very interesting. The following machines that will enter will be the Dragon Bird, Blue Falcon, Deep Claw, Moonshadow, Red Gazelle, and even an interesting craft known as the Crushing Quasar. Since E.D. is going to be a part of this, shouldn't Kate get in? I don't see why not. I hope it's not too late for her to join. Yet found out thanks to Rick and Tinsel that Kate and ED developed a relationship after he saved her life from Black Shadow's evil doing. But why would Octoman compete? Unless he may still work for Dark Million. That sneaky cephalopod! After all I've done for him! Relax, I'm sure he'll be on our side. We don't know if he's with Black Shadow yet. Just presumed he would. Damn! If only I could register if my comet wasn't so banged up. I'm certain Rick and the others will put a stop to him if he should get crafty. Calm down. All right. But he better wipe him out with a booster fire if he does. I don't sponsor traitors. We all need to cool our jets. Let's practice at the training ground for tomorrow. We need to make sure our skills are top-notch. Clash would have wanted it. Yeah! The team eventually decided that Lucy, Leon, Jack, the Hugminers, Clank, and Tinsel will stay behind. They needed as many strong seasoned drivers as they could find. With the concept of chess masters, I'm guessing that Black Shadow's the evil manipulator, while Falcon is the mysterious elusive from the opposing side. Blah, 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 blah. No wonder it made a cameo appearance as stage in Smash Bros. If only Smash would have more reps from F-Zero, especially Rick. I mean, yeah, Ultimate did have, spirits, but I never liked it. Listen, Nintendo, you have Namco, Bandai, and Sakurai by your side, and Ryo from Street Fighter was already chosen as a competitor via DLC. So what the hell are you waiting for? What I did here was something called a gaiden, Japanese term meaning side story subplot. Very popular for works in Japan, especially with anime, manga, and games. But from a different character's perspective, mostly though flashbacks minus the main protagonists. In this case, it was about Leon and Baseman without Rick and Falcon. So Rick learned the booster fire and was successful in using it. Would it be enough for the tumultuous race in Cosmo Terminal, especially against Dark Million and their formidable recruit EAD? Find out next time. There you have it. I'm actually halfway done with this epic. Man, I am so proud of this. So next time will finally be the quarterfinals of the Cosmo Terminal race. I'll see you guys then. Alright, welcome back to another episode of F-Zero Ending It All. Last time, Rick Wheeler has actually mastered the booster fire and has managed to beat Captain Falcon while using it as in his very own simulation of Porttown. And meanwhile, Leon has actually dated Lucy, and Beastman has actually managed to capture Biorex and take him to justice. And as you may notice, it's kind of different from the anime because the members of Dark Million, they're actually dwindling in numbers, which is a very good thing. And so, we finally made our way to the quarterfinals of the Cosmo Terminal. And the song is meh. Never actually did it personally in the Diamond Cup. And like I said, I highly recommend Ephraim's LP of this. So, let's get this started. Alright, lap 12. And, as a little note, this is actually one of my good friends, Berrywatterson's favorite chapter. We'll see why soon enough. So, Berry, this one's for you. After a week of vigorous training, both Rick and Falcon entered together at the Cosmo Terminal Trident. From the registration, Miss Killer was there along with EAD and Chris. Also, a mysterious machine that looked sleek with a red and yellow design and a 01 numeral entered the fray. The detective looked at each of his opponents with caution. The other machine, the Crushing Quasar, looked very similar to the Great Star, only having a black look with multiple white specks on its body. Clank went over the altered stats on the contraption. The Quasar had the grades BAD instead of the usual EAD, making its body strength very lethal. In fact, he could have sworn it was similar to the Black Bull. So that's what Black Shadow did to EAD's vehicle. Just like the Dark Star Dragon. Oh, Falcon! We need to prepare for the race. Do not let your training be in vain. It's known to be one of the most difficult due to the lack of guardrails. There are also multiple lanes which would give our enemies a chance to pass us, if not destroy us. We mustn't fall off, and it's vital to stay alert at all times, no matter what happens. The F-Zero Committee didn't put this on the legendary Diamond Cup for nothing. This mechanical course surrounded by high-tech elevators which tie to the abyss. This considers a new method of transportation when it substituted the track elevator. Construction had reached a height of almost 50,000 miles, but because the budget was skyrocketing, the building process had it very rough. As such, the F-Zero Execution Project created this particular circuit inside the elevator itself. Rick hadn't been in this much awe since he was in Rothbliss. The tracks were getting more serious and technologically advanced than the last. They're getting really tumultuous now. No doubt. I suppose you all need a helping hand? No, we're fine. This course isn't for the young at heart, and Kate! Rick was astonished to see her here. She made her usual pose behind the duo. They never even noticed her being in the rostrum, not even the Super Piranha. What are you doing here? Big smile, she explained. Why do you think, Rick? I'm here because I've heard that EAD is participating. I'd rather give up 1,000 concerts to see him. Besides, I owe him that much after he saved my life and for visiting most of my gigs. Is that Captain Falcon? The very same. We can't let Dark Million prevail, especially since they have the task force under their wing. Your friends are a part of this? Even EAD? Yes, Kate. He, Jody, Tanaka, and the doctor are still brainwashed by Black Shadow. Tinsel and her friends were able to save the lot of us. Rick. Kate, are you sure you still want to race with us? She did have a lot of courage and a strong reason for showing up at the last minute. I will, for the fate of EAD. I'm sure my Super Piranha would do well since it has the same stats as the legendary Blue Falcon. That made the bounty hunter blush a little. All right, Rick, I'll do it. I know you two will look out for me. That's our job, Kate. We always will. Putting her minds at ease, Kate Allen would have to enroll since the AD was a valuable friend to her, if not the only one. I hope the booster fire would pay off. Then there was the signal, and the accelerating competition began as each pilot put their pedals to the metal. There were 3 pathways, and they overlapped a lot on this course. They always went up and down and around the center path, which was a safe haven along with numerous dash plates and pit areas across the track. There was also a long jump, and pilots could see the enormous elevator in the distance operating to the right. This was built for true elites, something that literally separated the men from the boys, as several of the competitors were falling off left to right. It was mostly either due to accidentally falling off or just constantly shifting from path to path. EAD never seemed to have a problem with it, as Lucy had predicted. Only 7 cars were remaining by the final lap as they kept their cool and focused entirely on survival of the fittest. At one time, Rick was unfortunate, ending up the same lane as Miss Killer when she approached him. "Rick! Luna Ryder is on you! Be careful!" She managed to push him off course, but luckily he was saved by an oncoming path beneath him. Out of nowhere, the Deep Claw boosted into Miss Killer and distracted her by an endless barrage of bashing, till Rick was lagging behind. "Octoman, you sly devil! I think I'll keep you occupied for a while, Miss Killer," he continued on his annoyance. "Keep me occupied? Why? Don't tell me you've turned traitor and decided to help them, did you? Hell has no fury for you, Luna. That is what I'm doing, and I'm only helping out to return a favor to a special friend." She automatically figured it out as quick as altering from road to road. "Tinsel, she convinced you to disobey orders and run away like a foolish coward." "I'm not running away, am I? Not any more. I have my home planet and my family to save. What would Doc Million do for the likes of me?" Obviously, this was the first and only chance to redeem himself. Maybe then the Federation would get off his 6. They were at a tagging match. In a desperate attempt to catch up while his lethal enemy was busy, Rick did the incredible stunt once more. "It's go time. Booster fire!" He remembered the warning from Falcon on watching his acceleration timing. He caught up to the crushing quasar, and Falcon never made a move. But someone else did. Luna made a quick glance, then the sinister move. "Moon fire!" The moon's shadow was engulfed in flames as dark as fuchsia could get. Octoman was lucky he was behind her as she cruised past him in an instant. Past him. She was heading directly toward her target, the dragon bird. Through the rapid spinning vortex, Rick saw another cyclone in a violet hue head straight for him. "No way!" Alarmed and nearly petrified, he saw the death trap speed up. "How is this possible?" "Rick, Rick, you must watch out. Focus on surviving the race. I've warned you someone other than Black Shadow is likely to use it." "This can't be." "Hurry! Evacuate to the other lane." He did just that before Luna Ryder made her mark on him. His machine almost lost its balance, and the 2 volatiles ended. "Looks like I've met your match, Rick. Because of your treachery, you will perish. Miss Killer, I owe it all to you, my love, as does Mr. B.A.D. On the 3rd separate lane, not much was seen through the black-tinted windows, except his body giving out a shocking light blue tinge. He still had the wide load appearance, only he was completely shrouded in darkness. There were also some creepy outlines of turquoise surrounding him, and they were pulsating like veins. A sharp-pointed S-shape replaced the star in his belt. It almost looked as if he was glowing that same eerie light. Even his eyes replicated that aura. He had on such a sinister expression that he was sneering with his razor teeth always grinding. because of BAD's programming on destroying all the pilots, including ones in the task force. His recklessness caused him and the quasar to fall off. No! EAD! Kate saw the fiasco just a few feet behind. She hardly observed it was caught by something after it fell for several miles. Falcon noticed the rash robot, so he immediately punched around the dashboard and had him be saved by the Falcon flyer. The maw opened as it brought in the crushing quasar, almost looked as if it ate it. Deep Claw cut up to Miss Killer with a sudden nudge after he switched lanes. The mistress nearly fell, putting Rick in a state of panic. Haruka! Rick, concentrate! You got the home stretch ahead of you. Only worry about the race. Falcon, I can't let her die like this. Then, do you want to take your place instead? That shut his mouth by force. Do not fret. We're at the finish line now. Although, thanks to Octagon's sudden support, Captain Falcon won first, while the Dragon Bird went in second and the Gazelle was in third. The audience roared wild with a standing ovation. I can hardly put this mind-blowing victory into words. The top 5 have achieved the quarterfinals. Captain Falcon takes the lead with Rick Wheeler and the Mighty Gazelle very close. The Moon Shadow and Hyperspeeder barely qualified. What a rush! Mighty Gazelle? Who is he? Never heard such a competitor this generic before. He was taken aback by the unusual title, but it wasn't long until Falcon explained once the aggressive race ended. What do you know of him? He's one of the bravest and the most unique racers in the circuit. The Mighty Gazelle was named Roy Hughes, and he used to be human. He was the late father of Clank. He once worked with the Galaxy Police. He was very exceptional in this field. He was also into F-Zero racing after being intrigued from the video games he purchased for his kid. He had most of his body replaced after the horrific accident. Like Jody, he was half human, half cyborg. During his hospitalization, his wife was incredibly terrified from what he became, as there was hardly any of him left. Because of the divorce and the fact he couldn't visit to see his son anymore, his life was nearly meaningless until the X-Grand Prix was close at hand. Mighty Gazelle was no longer afraid on taking chances on the track. Not even another severe crash would stop him. He soon met Jody's long-lost brother, Andy Summer. Should be Summer, actually. Since then, they became close partners until his death during a shootout against Zoda. Then there was his own demise at Planet Forno in an infiltration of a space pirate transport run by that same maniacal monster. If you guys remember the anime, you should know this. I'll show it to you later. I'll probably show it to you in the next lap. Hopefully it works. Falcon heard some rumors circling around about Roy's condition. Only his cerebellum was the one thing that remained intact. He became a full-fledged robot for life and has been attempting to stay mobile and active during the F-Zero competitions, rather than resort to working at the Galactic Federation. Thus, this was when he earned the nickname the Mighty Gazelle. Little did Roy know that his son was involved in the war against Dark Million. Rick was fascinated from the intel he attained all those years ago. He hoped that Clank would find the answers eventually and realize that his father is still alive, albeit not having the same appearance and motor skills. He then gazed upon his machine, the Red Gazelle. It was presumed that it looked similar to a wild gazelle leaping through the savannah. The body was definitely on the weak side, but it was no issue for him, as he's always risky. It did make up for in spades with its incredible speed and average handling. Falcon mentioned he may want to take on disaster rescue one day because of his unwavering heroism and courage. Falcon! What was that thing that caught EAD? It's my starship, the Falcon Flyer. It's a spacecraft designed for interplanetary travel. I just remotely summoned it to catch the machine he was in. He should be safe, but also shut down. From the impact, he may be unconscious right now. Falcon, please. I have to see EAD to make sure he's all right. I'll go with you. Can it hold more than 2 machines and passengers? Of course. Follow me. What about the Gazelle? We'll worry about him later. We could always contact him through the Federation. Meanwhile, the appliance saw the group leave as he listened in on their predicament. At first, he just saw Dark Million's minions. The Black Shadow was just mere opponents. However, since he heard they're up to no good, he'll do whatever it takes to protect Clank. Inside the control chamber, Falcon led Rick, Kate, and Chris back to Earth. With the current threshold of the thrusters, they could make it within less than an hour. While she was watching over him, she became more anxious as she saw the comatose android still trapped inside the quasar. He abruptly came to, but he was not himself. His eyes ignited with that fiery turquoise color again, and he burst out of the machine, putting the black vocalist in a state of terror. Hearing the scream, Rick, Beastman, and Falcon stormed to her side as he was climbing out. The syringe! We need the syringe! Falcon ran to get the formula from the Dragonbird's glove compartment after he tossed him the key. What the terrified pilots never knew was that Mr. BAD had an arm cannon in his right limb. He made a sound as the beam was charging up. He aimed the weapon straight to Kate, but Rick tackled her out of the way just before he made a clear shot. He immediately took out his ray gun and the bullet ricocheted off his bulky figure. Fixed his eyes upon the nimble detective as he dodged every one of his attacks. The bullet holes left some type of little blue flame which dissipated after a couple seconds. EAD! What the hell are you doing? Trying to talk some sense into the berserk bot. There was no response. Instead, he kept it at his assault. Phaser charged again and someone took the blow. Falcon! The wound pierced his left leg. Luckily, the small flame was put out after he knelt in pain. No, you won't finish him off, EAD! Not unless you go through me! He braced himself for the worst. Kate was still dead in her tracks. Then the cyborg was able to hold him back. It was the mighty Gazelle! He lifted him up with all the strength he could muster. EAD kept wriggling from his firm hold until he threw him clear across the room. EAD's phazon-like exterior hit the wall. Sparks flew from him, and down he went like a ton of bricks. Gazelle! You should be safe now, Rick Wheeler. You should be safe now, Rick Wheeler. You too, Falcon. Thanks. We appreciate that. Oh. But EAD... His memory chip has been corrupted by Black Shadow. Codes need to be cleansed. But will that erase his memory? It may be possible. The Emperor of Brutality has done quite a doozy on him. Rick! Take this. He gave him the syringe with the sharp needle protected as well as the key to the Dragonbird. You know what to do. I know, but I think I'll leave it up to Rodney on this one. With the tainted data still inside him, the doc was EAD's only hope to restore his normal self. Full of doubt and uncertainty, Tinsel called Rodney, saying they'll stop by the hospital as soon as possible. From the urgency in her voice, he knew it was an emergency. They showed up about 10 minutes later, and Rick was by his side when they arrived next to the dormant android. Falcon was recovering in Port Town. Beastman decided to wait it out with the other pilots somewhere distant. The attack in the Falcon flare really scarred him, since this wasn't the norm with a feral animal. Rodney, I can't be sure about this. Can the formula really work, even if it's someone who isn't human? He had nothing but a blank stare. It boggled his mind as well, but he was hopeful. My dad made this for a reason. I strongly believe it can work on anyone, human or not. Besides, don't androids have some organic qualities? They aren't just sheer machines, you know. This may be too easy, but it's worth a try. I suggest we should use it. Even she'd be willing to use anything to save the one she truly cared about. The young physician did his business and was giving him an MRI. She-Rig and Tinsel made some space as he proceeded with the syringe afterwards. He inserted directly behind his neck, connected into her brain. All they did was wait in silence. They heard some footsteps from behind. It was only Gazelle, Clank, Jack, and Lucy. They've all knelt by the stretcher, just wishing their friend would wake up as his old self again. Kate held his drooping hand in a tight grip and was close to crying as she recalled the last time she lost him, when he sacrificed his own life to save her from Zoda and the Death Anchor, before he was painstakingly reconstructed from the late Dr. Clash. While the guys were waiting for EAD to reboot properly, Gazelle looked at Clank for a few minutes, then walked away. After a brief period, he followed the strange robot to another corridor. Hey, do you need something? Analyzed the neck piece, Tech 4. Felt a buzz in his head as another memory came to him. Clank Hughes. He looked up at him with his face full of doubt. Yeah? How do you know my name? I know you were good around kids, but... Hey, what are you doing with that? He took it off and scanned the moving pic in it. He stared at the scene where Clank and Roy were running together happily. Gazelle? The onlookers would know how somber he was. I am your father, Roy Hughes. I've waited a long time to see you again. How can you be my father? You're just a robot! That statement shocked his circuits. He didn't know what to say since Clank uttered the same thing his wife shouted before she abandoned him. It's true, Clank. The mighty Gazelle is Roy. Rick, I can't believe it. How do you know that? Why does he have my locket? Allow me to explain. He reiterated everything he was told, from the accident to the limb replacements to his death at the space hangar. Falcon told me he's your dad. He knew him personally before he changed completely. Only his brain survived. That was how he recognized you. He really isn't dead, Clank. He was reconstructed. Go to him. I'll be right behind you. Clank stopped closer slowly to the cyborg as he climbed into the cockpit. He was about to leave until... Are you my father? Moments stretched onward until he made the confirmation. Needless to say, there was a tearful reunion. He remembered the warm embrace he adored so long ago. That alone was the key that he knew his father was present in his life, and he'd no longer be considered an orphan. The last thing Clank wanted was to be taken away to that accursed orphanage at Forno, where he was treated badly by the other children. Rick couldn't be more happier as he sighed. Together at last. I wish Haruka and I would do the same. Then an idea struck him like a lightning bolt. What if? Rick! It's EAD! He's coming around! He opened his eyes and they were in their normal opaque hues, and his eyes and brows were squinty. He rose up immediately and took a quick survey. Where is this place? EAD! Oh, it's you, Kate. Welcome back, partner. Great to have you here, at last. You literally gave us quite a shock there, mate. We were worried sick about you. Is everything functioning okay? I think so. But where are we? My memory banks can't recall this place. You're at my hospital, Mr. EAD. I just did some tests on you earlier. You seem to be fine now. I don't remember you. Are you a younger version of Dr. Stewart? Actually, no. He's Robert's son, Dr. Rodney Stewart. He was the one that applied the syringe to you to clean the vial Black Shadow left. Black Shadow? I was with Black Shadow and Dark Million? We all were EAD. Me, Rick, Jack, and Dr. Clash, who... We still need to save Jody, Tanaka, and even my dad from those evil doers. The task force has been brainwashed, just like you were. How unfortunate. EAD, I know this is a lot for you to process, but we're here, and we'll do whatever we can to fix everything. You won't have to be ashamed. We still need you. I need you by my side. Sure, Kate. Hard to believe that an android would be capable of functioning as a mere machine, yet still possess traits and emotions from that of a human. He was the most unique friend and recruit the Galaxy Police had ever concocted. Maybe we should, good idea. Hey, I want to see what's going on. Come on, Jack. Ow, ow, ow! I'll keep an eye on things from here. I'm sure EAD will be in good hands with Miss Allen. You're the man, Doc. Just remember to keep the formula safe at all times. I'm afraid that my dad would find out soon. I'm not sure what I should do when the time comes. Don't sweat it. We got your back. I'm counting on all of you, especially you and Tinsel. We'll do our best, even in the last 2 races. Good luck, everyone. He hesitated and remained silent. Does love really rule the universe? Which, if you remember the song from the English dubs, which is pretty good. Wish I had a full version. Let's hope it does. I can't let the galaxy be shrouded in darkness. Fist clenched in anxiety. I just can't. How much more punishment do we have to endure before Black Shadow is stopped for good? Or when we get all of our friends back? Damn errors. She didn't even notice Rick calling her. Tinsel, are you coming? Oh, yeah, I'm coming. Are you alright? Is something wrong? No, nothing's wrong. Tinsel marched on without looking at him. He knew in his heart there was some negativity building inside her. He began to get very concerned. There's only 3 more pilots to go, and both he and she knew they'd be the toughest of all. She was very anxious and paranoid about the situation. Lucy told everyone via communicator for the Falcon Flyer earlier that the pilots in the top 5 had made it to the semifinals. Those being the Blue Falcon, the Dragon Bird, the Red Gazelle, Hyperspeeder, and Moon Shadow. Deep Claw, Great Star, Elegance, Liberty, Mad Wolf, and other anonymous machines were disqualified, but she didn't mind the rejection. She said she was better off staying at base. Later on, the team noticed the mighty Gazelle would be more than willing to join them. Much like how Rick presumed he was Ben Clash's replacement as a mechanic for the task force. He was able to make some repairs on EED and convert the parts from the Big Bang to other crafts, making them more durable for the next few races ahead. There were only a couple courses to go. Everyone was getting closer to the elimination round. The next challenge would be at one of the most fatal courses yet, Deathwind, and the Wonder Wasp would be there. Some of Tinsel's friends understood her worry spot on. She told them once about Pico after he set a foil trap to Tanaka, and when she and Rick failed to catch him. Zoda stole some of the data chips, and he was on his way to Kate's concert in a Port Town cruise. During that time, Tinsel explained that Pico was not only a talented assassin, like Stewart said, but also an aggressive F-Zero pilot who drove the Wild Goose. In addition, the semifinals would be at Tortoise 3, the place that's rumored to be the birthplace of that lean green killing machine, as she once called him. With Tanaka, Stewart, and Jody left, there was definitely no fooling around. She almost had an inclination that Tanaka may be the strategist and is planning to show up along with the rest of the crew on that particular course. Because of the constant tension, Rick had decided to train with Falcon one last time as soon as the hero recovers, before the Deathwind contest would take place within a couple days. Grand Prix was almost over. But what would it mean for Dark Million and the remaining task force members that are still imprisoned? So, yeah, you'll find out about Roy Hughes soon enough. I'll just present that clip in another chapter. Prussian Quasar was inspiration from Final Fantasy VI, particularly the hacked version, the Eternal Crystals. Jeez. It was also introduced in Bowser's Inside Story. Dark Star wouldn't work. So I was thinking about the lines of a black hole of sorts, thus the name came to be. Of course, the stats were arranged to symbolize, well, bad. Similar to the Hellhawk. Not really huge from the Prime series, but Dark Samus was a good look for EED. And, much like Mario, I didn't want to go with the Wario approach since he wasn't very intimidating. So, I went with the corrupting Phazon embodiment. Know that Gazelle sacrificed herself for Clank in the anime. He was part of Dark Million before that. The idea was taken out. Still don't understand how Stuart was able to restore Roy's human body after 6 years. Still, I'm going to go with the portrayal of the Gazelle from GX, and he also sounds like him from that game as well. There is still some intel about Roy Hughes, but as far as the cyborg goes, I'll use the intel from the games. 3 diamond courses are featured in this story, aside from the fact I'd never experienced them personally? That's a stretch. So the semifinals are coming up much like this lap. The next one's going to take a lot of work. Sure about my blah blah blah. Deathwind. While going against notable opponents like Pico and Tanaka. So there you have it. Lap 12 is actually done, and it's actually one of Berrywatterson's favorite chapters because of Kate and EAD. So, next time, will take place in the semifinals, eventually with Deathwind. So, this is the Ecron Rider signing out. to another episode of F-Zero Ending It All. Last time, our heroes actually managed to win in the quarterfinals at Cosmo Terminal, as well as encountering the mighty Gazelle, who actually happens to be Roy Hughes, who is actually Clank Hughes' deceased father. And I would like to apologize, I didn't really show the clip on the last lap. So, without further ado, I might as well show it to you guys now. This is my first time using this, so hold on just 1 second. Alright, here we go.
Hey, you're Captain Falcon.
I didn't know you were still working undercover.
I never met you. How could you know me?
Well. I'm disappointed in you, Roy. You had me completely fooled. But now I know you're a Galaxy Police spy.
Right now! Run, Falcon! Go for help! I'll keep going!
Roy! You're next, Captain Falcon. This is why you should never try to be a hero.
Go! Get out of here!
My transport!
Alright, did you guys see that? Pretty epic if you ask me. Anyway, that's how that scene came to be. So, without further ado, let's get on with the show, shall we? Alright, lap 13. Everyone couldn't stop thinking about the next F-Zero race. Alongside other racers who made it this far, the pilots in the task force in Dark Million had those that made it to the semifinals. The next featured challenge would be at the heart of Tortoise 3. It was said to be home to one of the most nefarious courses in the galaxy, Deathwind. According to Tinsel, who was well acquainted with it, Deathwind was a lethal circuit that is always smack dab in a strong windstorm blown eastward, which could go up to speeds that could exceed 100 miles per hour. Pilots weren't affected if they were to hit a dash plate or the pit area, fortunately. But because they were scarce, those conditions made it very tedious, even for the most experienced drivers, as they'd always been tossed around like rag dolls while they trekked through the harsh terrain. She only experienced it once 13 years ago during the Night League, though she missed the second track that was part of the King League. From the announcement on a television at the Falcon House, Rick, Tinsel, Bert, and Clank heard the bulletin on who will participate in Knock on Death's door. Aside from the first two, one of them was a green alien who had an enormous infamy on being a talented assassin. He went by the name of Pico, whom she and Rick knew in the past. Pico was one of the most aggressive racers in the original F-Zero. Of course, there's also Samurai Goro. That gave Rick an idea. She saw his brows go up. You're not thinking what I'm thinking, are you? If you're planning to recruit Samurai Goro, then you're just crazy. Don't you know what he did to Dragon Roger? He almost killed us if it wasn't for Falcon. Tinsel recalled the events at Red Canyon, sabotage, the capture of her and her comrades, and the sudden appearance of the bounty hunter. Then there was the fatal race in which she, Falcon, and Leon won. They were able to retrieve the mighty Hurricane and Typhoon in one piece, and escaped just as the thieves' vehicles blew up. This is insane, Rick! I never trusted this guy. What would Falcon feel about this? And he said he never kills? What about the time he almost sliced us into ribbons? Or those kids that were sick? If it wasn't for you, they would have all died. And he says he never kills? Clank was taken aback by her outbursts. Calm down, Tinsel. Goro could help us win if he can match Pico's skills. You said so yourself that they were both veterans and were really tough on the tracks way back. So we could use his experience to give us the edge. Almost like an ally to him. I know what I'm doing. I'm not so sure about this. But I'm not going just yet. I want to train you on using the special technique Falcon taught me, the booster fire. Rick, are you sure? I'm positive, Tinsel. You'll need all the practice you can get. We still have a few days left. The patrons then heard a yelp coming from Mr. Zero as he was introducing Pico. He claims that his favorite food was steak dripping with blood. The Comet pilot commented, "No wonder he gets into a lot of road rage and has a thirst for violence. Do you know it has a lot of toxoplasma in it?" "What's that?" "It's a parasitic chemical that settles in your brain after a few weeks on consuming it. It's known to make eaters have a more aggressive behavior because of the effect by it." She's right, you know. That's why I always make sure my meats are medium to well done. I don't allow rare meats here. It's how we get many troublemakers on the road. Huh. See. I didn't know it could do that, Bert. I'll make sure I stay away from rare meat. Unless you can count cold cuts. I don't want that to happen to me. Good boy, Clank. Where's Gazelle? He should be here any minute. He's just testing out his machine at the old Mute City courts. He was mostly employed as a janitor for the Falcon House, but he worked with the task force from time to time. Just then the mighty Gazelle marched into the diner. "Hey, look who's here! Bert, I'd like you to meet the mighty Gazelle. He's a very cool F-Zero racer, and he appears to be my own man." Ha ha ha! Good for you, Clank. I'm quite glad now that you finally found your father. Dad? Hey, are you having a short circuit or what? He never budged, but his eyes gleamed as he kept facing Bert. He identified the data, and it was not what he expected. It was the same person, but it was a different name. Andy Summer, confirmed. None of them could even breathe. "I think you got some screws loose, Dad. That can't be Andy. He's Bert Lemming." "Bert and Andy are the same men. The former is his alias. He was once a member belonging to the Galaxy Police." "What? Is he really? You mean Bert is Jody's own brother?" It's true. Gazelle couldn't be more right. "That means you were the one who saved Jody from Zoda." Rick had a flashback which revealed what happened during the shootout in Mute City. There was a huge explosion as he covered her sis with his body. After that, she had most of her body replaced with mechanical parts. "You survived the attack several years ago. How was that possible?" He'd never been this stunned since he found out he had 150 years sleep. Damn it. Then there was a pause that stretched on for a few moments. "Bert? I should have known Roy would recognize me." The secret had been unveiled. Much like him, he was rumored to be dead, so he went by the alias of Bert Lemming. He never wanted to go back to being an officer of the Galaxy Police after he was shot. Never thought once he would stay alive. And he sometimes worries of his sister's fate. Just like Rick, Tinsel, and Roy, even he was scarred for life. With some bone and organ replacements, especially his legs, he eventually started a new life and identity. He figured he wasn't mobile or fit enough, so he wanted to build and run the Falcon House dedicated to his favorite pilot, Captain Falcon. His career as an F-Zero racer, bounty hunter, and hero was really an inspiration to him. He tried his hands on the sport once, but of course he lost interest as he lost control. Much like Tinsel, even he gave him a second shot, a drive to keep on living. The rest was just history from here. No way. Can't believe your old friend was able to recognize you after all these years. A former member of the Galaxy Platoon who nearly a former member of the Galaxy Platoon. nearly all lost all his bodily functions. Then, after being honorably discharged, started his second chance as the head of a place inspired by Captain Falcon. He became the driving force of his life. It's absolutely incredible. Wonder what Jody would think about all this once we get her back. That's the ticket, Rick. When you come across my sister, you have my permission to do so. I hope it'll be able to make her snap out of the thrall Black Shadow has on her. We will. We promise. However, no one must know. Promise me this. Cross my heart. You bet, Andy, he said, calling by his second name was fine. That goes for you too, Dad. Affirmative. Somewhere near headquarters, Rick had told Tinsel she housed a reactor mate inside the Comet. It was originally pointed out by Captain Falcon and he wanted to train her. She was worried since he just learned the booster fire himself, although he's confident she will too as long as he's her personal tutor, while the champion is still recovering from EAD's onslaught. Thanks to the spare parts from the Big Fang, Lucy, EAD, and Gazelle had actually made an advancement on the Comet, although its stats had been reversed. It still has the maximum acceleration, but instead the craft had a slightly stronger body, while also a downgrade on its grip, which was good considering she was having some trouble with the enhancements, as well as her handling while the safety features had been turned off. Rick walked her through the process in the Dragonbird as they were cruising through the task force's training circuit, the traditional park, and he guided her whenever she was slipping. Then, by the next few laps, it was time. Tinsel listened in on how to utilize the nitrous while using a spin attack. Rick pulled back the nozzle as she saw his dashboard glowing. Then his machine rotated in a very rapid fashion as it was being engulfed by its flames. She was surprised they weren't burning the Dragonbird's exterior. She did see him zoom away as far as the eye could see. It only lasted for less than a minute when the car returned to normal. Rick allowed her to catch up. That was... I hardly even saw you. You were so far away when the transformation finished. The booster fire causes your machine to shoot past your opponents like a rocket, breaking the sound barrier. It's extremely fast, but also dangerous. You'd best go to a straightaway and make sure there won't be any obstacles in your path. Let's do this when we reach the finish line. Before they hovered over it side by side, Rick encouraged her. Now, Tinsel, get ready. Use everything I've shown you since you only have one chance. There's only a single reactor mite, so use it well. Do not be afraid. Go for it. She was more determined than ever. It was almost like his words have struck a chord. She nodded and pulled back the handle. She pressed the button to do spin attack while she stepped on the gas as hard as she could. Now the comet looked as if it was sparkling just like the celestial body itself. Booster fire! It spun in an icy light blue hue. Gravitational pull caused her to slump against her seat as she held on to the handles for dear life. Everything around her began to swirl so quickly that her eyes couldn't keep up the critical velocity. Whoa! I'm getting dizzy! The Dragonbird saw the comet swerve a few times. He was surprised she never crashed, unlike him. He boosted more to observe the flaring comet. How do I stop this thing? Her jaw was barely moving as she screamed. By the time the course curved to the right, the phenomenal spectacle ended, almost like the vehicle busted through as the tiny ice particles scattered. The comet slowed down gradually and Tinsel's head swam like crazy. It almost felt like it was about to fall off her shoulders. She hardly moved as she succumbed to all that weight and speed. Her arms dropped to her lap and she collapsed onto the motherboard. Rick ran to her machine and, surprisingly, there wasn't any damage to the outer shell. He used the grappling hook and pulled the comet back into the garage. He asked if he could borrow the master key from Lucy to unlock it and unload the comatose pilot. He couldn't turn away from her as he was so anxious to treat her wounds. He thought Rodney might give him some help. Several hours later, she eventually came to. Her best friend was by her side. She was resting in a comfy bed and the room was almost completely dark. He kept encouraging her to wake up. Her vision was very blurry, but at least she saw him from the dim lighting. Hey, you alright? You just achieved the booster fire. Oh, what happened? Did I crash? The room was still spinning as she groaned. She could hardly keep her eyes open. No, you didn't. You made it. I was there right beside you. I'm surprised you did it without crashing. You're very lucky. Why do I have such a headache? Maybe the shock of the booster fire was too much for you. Don't worry. With me and Falcon by your side, you'll get used to it eventually. I hope so. She dozed off, yet she was still holding the right side of her forehead just above her eye. Then Rick gently removed her hand. It began to feel worse and she squeezed her eyes shut, then numb after he slowly leaned over and kissed that spot. She opened her eyes. Rick. She gazed into his eyes. He did the same until their faces neared. Wait. I've never kissed anyone before. Time to have your second lesson. Just follow my lead. Finally their lips touched. They closed their eyes and it was such a warm, welcoming sensation for both of them. It was as if time had stopped as they slowly absorbed every touch and movement. It seemed like an eternity to separate and looked at each other again. Tinsel's vision went hazy. Rick brought an assuring hand to her cheek, caressing it. You'll be okay, Tinsel. Stay strong. It's my head, Rick. I think you should rest. I'll be beside you when you wake up. You mean you wait for me? Of course. Try not to overexert yourself so much. You need to recover. I'm sure Rodney will be here shortly. Good night, Tinsel. Good night, Rick. How is she? She's very tired. She said she's suffering from a headache. The booster fire must have taken its toll. He wondered if Falcon would recuperate soon. They only had a few days to go. Then there was something Rick never felt before. His body began to heat up from within, and the thermal energy was crawling toward his palm. He hardly noticed it began to illuminate a light orange shade. It felt so warm. He laid it on Tinsel's throbbing skull. He touched her. When she let out another sigh, she absorbed the healing energy. Oh, it was almost like the sun's purifying rays, perhaps like the regenerating flames from the phoenix as she began to feel better. Rodney was taking out some pills from his medical kit until he looked at Rick in a perplexing manner. How was that even possible? A few seconds later, his hand cooled as it returned to normal. He looked at it in awe. He couldn't believe what he just did. Figured it was due to the reactor mites they possessed. They somehow made a chain reaction to each other after the training session, as if there'd be some kind of connection between them, like neurons. Rick, how were you able to do that? He never really had an answer. I didn't think I could. Elsewhere, two female onlookers witnessed the occurrence. Through a pair of infrared binoculars, she gazed at Rick, still a statue, watching Tinsel. The Silver Comet has the missing reactor mite. We have finally found it. We must report this to Black Shadow, Miss Killer said. He will be pleased. The universe must fall. It would soon be ours. The next day, he stopped by Rodney's place and met Tinsel again. He woke her up. Her sight cleared almost instantly as she saw him. Rick! So good to see you. Likewise. How are you feeling? A little better. I think my head is clearing up, but I still feel so groggy. It'll go in time. Listen, I'm actually heading to Planet Kryton now. I'm going to ask and see if Goro can help us. Rick, I told you, I can't trust him. How do we know he really is going to help us and why? I can't understand. What do you see in him that I don't? What is it that you have in common? That I'm not sure. What I am sure of is that he's our only hope to win against Pico and Tanaka. His fire stingray is very durable. This could put us in an advantage. I tried to convince her otherwise, but it wasn't helping. Rick, please return safely. I don't want you to give up your machine or your life to the likes of him. I'll return soon. You have my word. Just keep resting. He laid a hand on her cheek for assurance. And then he was off. He then alerted his friends in the task force. If anything should go awry, we're gonna know about it. Rick met Goro at the old saloon where they first met. The Japanese warrior reluctantly disagreed since Falcon would be in the same race. Rick convinced him that if he misses out, he would be forfeited, and he desperately needed his help in order to put a stop to Pico since they were old rivals. Goro recalled how the Wild Goose was so aggressive during the original Grand Prix, and how he occasionally saw him in other races. The Wild Goose, in conjunction to Deathwind and a member of the task force, can destroy us all. He accepted Rick's offer since he likes him. Why are you so willing to help me? We may have something in common, you and I. Meanwhile, Falcon taught Tinsel how to use the booster fire. She wanted to do it herself, but Leon thought she was crazy after she passed out last time. Bounty Hunter assured her that she'll get used to it. She must master it in order for them to win. Plus, the race was tomorrow. The last lap, both she and Falcon did it together. He urged her to fight back her sickness and focus on the track. By the time it ended, she managed to catch her breath, and he said to use it when the time is right. He'll see her at the race, but he must see Rick personally at Port Town. Summoned the flare and he departed. She heard a machine's engines and told Rick what transpired. He did the same. That actually convinced Falcon and Tinsel and Goro's help as well. They keep a keen eye on him. Are you sure we can trust Goro? I can. On that night, he trained with Falcon one last time in Port Town. He led his best friends Tinsel and Jack to Falcon's fortress late that evening. Met him waiting outside the entrance. Scanner went over his face and unlocked the garage. Looks like nothing's changed. It's been a year since I was here. What? You knew all about this, and you didn't even tell us about it? She kept this as a secret for a reason, Jack. He needs the solitude. Bounty Hunter motioned him to come along. You two stay here. I have to train with Falcon. He's been expecting me. Good luck. You're gonna need it, Wheeler. He smiled and gave a thumbs up before he headed inside the blinding white chamber. As soon as the door closed, he exhaled. All right, Falcon, what is so important that you have to show me? Through another simulation, Rick startlingly looked around, realizing the trippy background he saw earlier when he touched the championship belt. Neon blue track emerged at their feet, and it was refracting light from the sinister arena. There were some guardrails, but they were very thin. It was almost like Rainbow Road, but there weren't any beautiful colors here. What? Where am I all of a sudden? Captain gave Rick the final challenge, a simulation of the Phantom Road. After he defeated the creator spirits there, that was when he obtained the data for it. Safety features absolutely needed to be turned off for this. In addition, he promised that if Rick is able to defeat him, it'll be official. He'll be the next Falcon. It's on like Donkey Kong. Give me the best you got, champion. I'll still beat you like I did before. Let's go! With its sharp turns and since it had very thin guardrails, the Blue Falcon had no trouble. However, the Dragon Bird was slipping at times. He was compassionate enough to enable a UFO if he was unfortunate to actually fall off. He had such a difficult time to keep up the unstoppable Grand Prix champion until he finally did after 2 irritating laps. Before the last stretch, Falcon was ahead of him and activated the booster fire. Rick then followed suit. By the time the ordeal ended, he was so stupefied that he hardly saw the fortress transform back into its normal state. Nearly felt as if he woke up from an excruciatingly, frighteningly nightmare. This whole course was definitely one that was so surreal. You have done well, Rick, my disciple. It's now up to you to decide your own destiny. I won? Former champion took off his helmet and revealed short, dark brown hair, thick, tannish skin, opal-colored eyes, and a scar through the left eye. My real name is Douglas J. Falcon. I was the captain turned bounty hunter of the Internova Police. It was my duty to uphold peace and justice throughout the universe. It still is today. Now, offering my legacy to you. No, I refuse the offer. I can't accept your helmet or your legendary reputation. Just because I won your last race, I can only be your friend and your successor. That's all that I'm willing to give. Sounds good to me. Ditto. What? What? You're giving Wheeler everything? I thought you said you were never going to retire. You made that clear to Mr. Zero in an interview once. Indeed I have, but the truth is, I can't go on forever, and I really do not want to try. Ever since Black Shadow returned, I knew my time would come. We may cheat our fate, but we cannot escape it. So, who can I trust if the unthinkable should happen to me? I couldn't just pick any racer who will take my stead. And that's what I decided to tell Jody and Stewart, that I need a follower. Someone that'll carry the mantle and responsibility. Someone who I can tell all my secrets. Rick made it official tonight. He is the one. Falcon. I don't know what to say. I still have work alongside the task force. They need me. I'm not sure if I'm ready. That time will come, soon enough. Falcon must have known that his death would be a fate that couldn't be avoided. And knowing that, he still gave you the last of his teachings, his identity, his secrets? Why? It was hope, so that part of him will remain after he'll be gone. He just understood his mortality. He never wanted to show his fears, his anxieties to anyone. He was looking for someone to take his place because he knew ever since Black Shadow returned. We can't live forever, even if we were to sleep for another 150 years. It can't settle down. He's so restless and earnest. The least he could do was pass the torch. To me. He gazed at the old gold etching of the falcon in his palm. This was actually the emblem he earned as the head of the Internova Police Force. Falcon, I will succeed you. I know my course now. I must finish what you have started, and I will assist you to defeat Black Shadow. I swear it. On the day of the big race, Clank analyzed the data for Pico and the Wild Goose. All three stats were arranged just as they were in the alphabet, making it the most volatile and versatile machine out there. Pico's homeworld was Tortoise 3, as Tinsel pointed out. Torn by war and mutation, it's always its own general from the special unit of the Polypoto military. Send this machine for using commands of the unit. The general retired, the Wild Goose's military history was recognized and was adapted for racing. Soldier designed the Wild Goose was a member of the strong, fighting, spirited Polypoto tribe of Deathwind. It is able to withstand heavy damage and was made to perform attack runs, thus making it suitable for Pico's aggressive driving nature. However, its weak acceleration and below-average drifting abilities in corners are a bit disconcerting. Because of the inclement weather, there wasn't a stadium nor stands. There were only a few cameras and very tall, sturdy tripods. One from a blimp overhead to monitor the race. It was dangerous since the Polypedo army may be around with its murderous general. This was Pico's and Tanaka's opportunity to incapacitate the racers and obtain the reactor mites. Clank and Bert were watching from the Falcon house while Lucy, EAD, Leon, and Kate were cheering at headquarters. They hoped the enhancements for the Big Thing would pay off for the volatile match. Rick recognized the machine as each racer pulled up into the starting gates which held their cars snug until the signal. Tinsel was nervous, recalling the unforgiving circuit, and that their opponents are there. It's the Horrid Hornet! I've seen it back in Dark Star. It's a revamped version of the Wonder Wasp. It's been altered into the Hornet. It was labeled as such with very bold lettering. The lines on the vehicle were shaded black, the exterior was a mixture of ash blonde, mahogany, and titian. And then gliders were pointed like its own lethal stingers. Tanaka's uniform also matched the machine. He had a jumpsuit that was a dark color, cider color, and had huge black lines. Gloves looked similar, as were shoes. Stats were changed with a slight improvement on both the body and grip because the components were BAB. It's likely that Pico would have the upper hand as he worked alongside the dreaded Hitman. He doesn't race very often, though. True, but he could still be a formidable enemy, especially with what Black Shadow did to him. Our main focus is surviving this circuit. Even I know how tumultuous this is. You hear that, guys? Roger. Copy that. You bet. We're gonna do some clobbering. Affirmative. Welcome, racing fans, one and all, to the dangerous Deathwind track. Semifinals is about to get underway. No one who dared to lose has ever gotten this far. The top 6 pilots that qualify will advance to the finals. The race was on. Due to the strong gusts on the track, along with the minefields and strict turns, some of the machines lost control and crashed all over. Dashes were nearly impossible to make, but like Tinsel stated, it provided temporary relief from the storm. So did the short pit area. The first lap was about survival, but by the second lap it was all about desperation, as each pilot fought viciously on taking the winner's circle. Hornet made its move on the Comet, making Tinsel jump. However, she was surprised that she took lesser damage than usual. She figured it was from the enhancements by the Big Thing's spare parts. She tacked back, and the creepy-looking contraption sent it crashing to the walls. Gazelle was the first to be wiped out. Aw, Dad! Come on, guys, crush that bug! The others were swarming like flies thanks to the Hornet's rampage with Pico, Miss Killer, and the harsh environment. Mighty Typhoon was down and out, as was the Robin. It's up to you now, Ricky. Don't worry, Jack and Drac. We got your back. At the final lap, Falcon, Rick, and Tinsel were lagging behind. Rick Wheeler, Captain Falcon, and Tinsel Steelus are beside each other, while Tanaka and Pico are still in the lead. What are they scheming? Falcon decided for all three to use the booster fire to stay ahead and prevent Pico and Tanaka from winning. They had to be neck to neck so they can sandwich their machines, with the Comet in the center. Girl was always struggling with the two. Chris and Gomar and Shio were low on power. Miss Killer saw the triple booster fire ahead and did the moon fire. They couldn't lose the formation and they plowed through the leading pilots. Look out! Ah! The goose spun out of control and practically exploded, while at the same time the fire stingrays nearly obliterated. Sorry, Goro! Tanaka actually tapped into the moon shadow as it was closing in on Rick. He was able to lessen the ignition, yet... Watch out, Rick! Falcon warned as it nudged the Dragon Bird. The collision resulted in an accident involving the Hornet. Fortunately, the storm was ending as the race did. When they crossed the line, the spectacle ended. The top 6 were Falcon, Rick, Tinsel, Miss Killer, Goro, and Gomar and Shio, who maneuvered around the freak accident cooperatively. The dragon turned back and the machines followed him to the wreckage. It's Tanaka! He's badly hurt! Where's Pico? Falcon, where are you going? He was able to pull Goro from the wreckage, though Pico wasn't so lucky. Why did you do it, Falcon? Goro was your greatest rival. He's my rival, Rick, not my enemy. There is a difference. I thought you wouldn't miss the chance for him to be destroyed. That would be dishonorable. Letting someone die, that would be no different than Black Shadow. Rick and Tinsley had a good point, but she wasn't really convinced. Goro was able to keep Pico busy for us, right? We took him out, so the least we could do was return the favor. Maybe, but that means he would still go after you. What could be worth the risk? Let it go, Tinsel. The deed is done. You're just gonna let him walk away? It's what he wants, isn't it, Falcon? Falcon, wait! Meet me at Port Town. You know where to go. I'll be waiting. The paramedics arrived with sirens wailing, and Rick and Tinsel met Jack, Gazelle, Drac, and Gomer and Shio. He told them to bring Tanaka to Mute City where Rodney was, so he could receive the formula to restore his mind. Will do. Follow us. Blue Falcon jumped off the track, and Pico was flown back a few feet. For a second, she could have sworn his fist glowed as the wind was knocked out of him. EMTs took away Tanaka and towed the Hornet. Both Rick and Tinsel actually forgot to bring the syringes. They were preoccupied with the semifinals. Furicakes were disappointed that Luna beat them. She would be at the finals. Tinsel called for Rodney, but she had to leave a message. Rodney? Are you there? Hello? Look, we won the race, but we forgot to bring the formula with us. Tanaka is being transported to Earth now. So, I want you to, have it ready, will ya? Little did she know Black Shadow listened on the whole thing. Can the comet come out to play? Where is he? She paid attention to his threats. There was an ultimatum. He won't be harmed if they lose the finals and give Dark Million the remaining reactor mites. Then she immediately ended the reception and cried to Rick they must hurry back to Mute City. At Rodney's office, he was held hostage by the trio, Black Shadow, Jody, and his old man. She was wearing a black jumpsuit instead of the usual white one, but it had red lines. She also donned on the same sneakers Rick once wore with the protruding horns. Stuart had on a doctor's robe shrouded in darkness. It's time to have a taste of your own medicine. Father, that's your medicine. You made this. Stuart injected it into his upper neck. Dad, but why? Mad Dog trooped the gizmo on the hard tile floor, and sensing something, Black Shadow teleported. By the time the duo returned, it was too late. They found themselves in a demolished hospital. The test tubes were broken and leaking. The robots were out of commission. And the only clue left was a shattered syringe laying on the floor. Tinsel knew who it belonged to, then sunk to her knees. This is our fault. We would have brought the formula with us. This isn't the time for self-pity. We must rescue Rodney, but the Dark Star could be almost anywhere. Black Shadow doesn't stay around for very long. Their only chance to win is in the finals, but without the formula, as the two saddened pilots feared, they can't bring Stuart, Jody, or Tanaka back. The captain said the flyer could track Dark Million, but it won't be an easy feat. Falcon's right. We need to accomplish the last race. In lightning. Lightning? But about Rodney. Hearts were heavy on the young medico's fate, thinking what Black Shadow or Dr. Stewart would do to him. Of course, the original game is only one in a series that features Deathwind, loosely based from the King League with some added bonuses. Turns are more sharper, there were a couple more mines. The only difference is it doesn't have those annoying exploding cars, nor the orange ones. The Wild Goose still remains to be my favorite machine, and the Blue Falcon is very balanced. I can understand why people would often use the Fire Stingray. Even when it comes to the original. It works wonders, gives great endurance and high speed, its gripping needs some work, but I'd see why it's a decent machine, which is why I decided to use it as an advantage against Pico. I'm a Melissa-phobic, by the way. Fake ones I don't have a problem with and never get stung. However, I heard of many who were unfortunate, and whenever I saw or hear a wasp or something similar, I just freeze or run away as fast as possible. Considering that Tanaka's machine's the Wonder Wasp, I really want to take the alteration as sinister as it possibly could. Final challenge is in Phantom Mode from GX's Story Mode's finale. Keep in mind that Captain Falcon's taken his name from the games. Burt Lemming is the alias of Jody's Andy Summer. Toxoplasma can cause road rage, killing and destruction. One thing's well done is black as a puck, well actually medium now. Little did I know that Green Plant was also on Tortoise 3. First I wasn't sure what planet the total course was on, thought it could be on Planet White, but I guess I have to fix everything. It's one of the things about this series is its inconsistency. Like Pico's age is 123, then 124. Although he was 34 in the first F-Zero game, that doesn't really add up. Regardless, after a month in hiatus, lab is at last complete. Should I thank my collaborators on it? Life just always gets in the way, so Rick and company advanced to the finals, and Black Shadow demanded on Rodney's fate. His life with the reactor lights on and losing at lightning. With Stuart and Jody still influenced, will he and the galaxy be doomed? Well, find out in the championship. Until then, this is the Ecron Writers signing out. So, take care, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of F-Zero Ending It All. Last time, our heroes had managed to accomplish the semifinals. Unfortunately, Rodney Stewart and his hospital got ransacked by Dark Million, and the formula was stolen. Dr. Stewart actually got his own experiment back, and so Rodney Stewart has been taken to Dark Star. So, what will become the fate of him and the rest of the task force? Well, we'll see. Alright, lap 14. Rick was training strenuously, using every simulation Falcon had in his possession, including the Phantom Road. He couldn't seem to get the championship and even Rodney's upcoming fate out of his mind. Neither could Tinsel. She wanted to practice using Falcon's courses, but they agreed not to with Gilmore and Shio for confidential reasons. She remembered the first time when she noticed an enormous structure transform right before her eyes, as she, Yugi, and Joey found a duelist. It was a rare sight since most people were interested in F-Zero racing instead. To calm her mind, Tinsel was returning to the place where it was the most tranquil and sentimental. Her remaining friends, Drac, Leon, and the duelists, were arriving in Port Town. Sabotage there resulted one of the Robs missing. Tinsel noticed it during her second visit, and she wondered what Dork Million would use it for. He soon stopped at the outskirts, and the canine asked, "Tinsel, why did you stop?" She was gazing up at the sky. "Don't you want to absorb its beauty? This place always has the best sunset with its mesmerizing blues, reds, and indigos." She took a deep sigh as she reflected. "Makes a wonderful sight. At least that hasn't changed in 13 years. The sky was so dramatic that she and her allies climbed out and sat on top of their machines, watching the city light up as the sky grew into more darker purple. Yugi and Joey sat on their dragons, Time Mace, and Crucius. Hermos was still in its card. Sorry for the mispronunciation. Leon spoke after a silence that seemed to have lasted into eternity. Could you guys excuse us for a minute? I need to talk to Tinsel. Alone? Yeah, I guess. Fine by me. Shall we? Let's. Don't be long, Drax said as he wobbled toward the group. When it turned quiet, Tinsel asked in concern, "I knew you would talk to me in private one of these days. Spit it out already." Tinsel, if this were to be our last race, there's something that you need to know. What is it? It's about a pilot I used to meet. He was once a mentor to Black Shadow and his minions, and soon the Federation's. His name is James. He owns the Little Wyvern and has a wife and son. Thinking that he was a traitor, they abandoned him. He has been in the shadows ever since. What's your point? My point is that we should find him. Maybe he can help us deal with Black Shadow and possibly know the whereabouts of Jody and Stewart. Maybe help us prepare for the last race. There's only one person who could help us find him. But even he's very elusive. I know what you're saying. Falcon's actually busy training himself and Rick for the championship. Let's search every crowded street. He should be here. At least I think so. Let's hope he hasn't been relocated. I'm with you, Tinsel. We all are. They went to the others and they were off in search of the mysterious pilot. As the team split up, Tinsel and Gomer and Shio eventually wound up near an abandoned base with a strange logo on it. It was a faded dark blue with a huge white atom in the middle. The words Galaxy Dog appeared thrice encircling the image. I hope this is the place. To answer her question, both she and the Furicakes were blinded by a large spotlight. That's a little bright, don't you think? Halt! Who goes there? It's me, Tinsel Steelus. And these are my friends Gomar and Shio from the planet Huckmine. We came here so we could find you and that you could help us practice for the finals. That's the Silver Comet and the twin Narita? That's us. The lamp shut off and their eyes took a few moments to readjust. Proceed. Just then the titanium door opened slowly, allowing the pilots to enter. They emerged into a courtyard of sorts, and the steel compound surrounded them as the military man stepped out. He wore sunglasses, a red scarf, a green shirt with silver coat covering it, and tights. Skinny boots reached his knees, and his dark brown hair stuck up at the sides like canine ears. He motioned them to leave their vehicles, shoving his head to the left. "Greetings, everyone. I am James McLeod, the leader of a squadron called the Galaxy Dogs. We strive on being the best war fighters both in the sky and in deep space. Discipline is our top priority around here." His demeanor seemed to have intimidated the trio. Uh, Nice to meet you." "No time for talk, Missy. I hear you've all qualified for the championship at Lightning. Did you not? Along with Rick Wheeler and Captain Falcon?" "Yeah, we have." "I suppose you all have been financially prepared. These training sessions don't come cheap, you know." "Do you accept money digitally?" "Indeed. Anyway, satisfactory." One could get the feeling the money was intended for defenses. There was reason for suspicion, seeing as he knew about the sabotage. Yet Tinsel never asked. On her key she withdrew 100 space credits. The duo did the same. They simultaneously chirped when the transaction was confirmed, and then downloaded to James's. "Let's get started. The race begins in 2 days, so I don't want any lollygagging. Let's move. Follow me. Bring your machines." They hesitantly did just that, though they didn't know someone slipped in from the outside as the entrance was open. From that small structure, Jim was in charge of a cockpit. It was a training session to test their agility by avoiding volleys of bullets. They kept raining down on each of the hapless machines. The clanging almost hurt their ears, and they left many dents. "Come on, you useless maggots! This is a way to become more evasive by dodging enemy fire. Black Shadow and his cronies would never stop being reckless. Even they can throw a few trick plays. Get your heads in the game and out of your asses!" "Oh, that's very helpful," steering her machine as sharply as possible. "Yeah, but we can do this." Once the bullets rained down, the two machines were on their way, moving as intended. At least it seemed that way at first. In the early few seconds, Gomer and Shio found slight marks on the ground and used them as guardrails, avoiding them at every possible turn. To see the twin and Rita moving in such a fashion was to compare it to a fly moving with supreme control. Silver Comet, on the other hand, found itself nicked by one of 2 stray bullets. Tinsel knew well ahead that this was not going to be easy, but she tried her best to read the situation and dodge the bullets. However, no matter where she moved, she still heard her metal being hit. Once the volley of bullets stopped, both machines arrived near Jim to hear their evaluation. "Looks like you two are the perfect decoys. Unlike you, who's been slacking off." "Sir, this wasn't easy. You see, I just had some of my components replaced by—" "I don't need your excuses, cadet. Now, you 3 lazy lumps, follow me. There's a good old course I want you to see." His voice was lowered for a bit, yet Tinsel still found a harshness in his tone. Another session featured courses that were about 50 feet high off the ground. Tinsel thought it to be a special treat, as one of the courses were designed after the Queen and King leagues of old. The latter boasted sharper curves and was much longer than the former. Comet and Rita were idle while Jim stood by at the starting line. "This doesn't matter who wins. It is only a friendly competition. Survive and conquer it." After 8 seconds, the officer shot a pistol into the air, signaling the drivers. During the trial, the sharp drill sergeant noticed how heavily the Silver Comet descended. As he saw how the jump plates were being used, he jotted some notes down, scoffing as he did. He could only wait to see how Tinsel and the Silver Comet would do in the more difficult course, one adorned with several lethal turns. It was bad enough that Tinsel had slowed down constantly while Gomer and Shio were suffering as they kept on hitting the walls. At the second lap, the rival machine decided to cheat a little as it soared to the right on the second jump. Gomar mentioned to Shio to take it, and Jim noticed the stunt through the binoculars. He summoned a large UFO-like machine from a portable remote that picked the pair up from a tractor beam at the underside. It forced them back a few inches. This actually allowed the comet to catch up. They clashed with each other from time to time, but no one was backing down. Neither had the need to use any side or spin attacks. The booster fire was completely out of the question. The difficult curves and obstacles were bad enough. By the time it was over, Tinsel won. They cheerfully returned to their coach after their victory lap. "See, Jim? I told you we'd ace this." "Sorry for cheating, sir." He wasn't impressed to their discouragement. "You made a very risky move on your part, Huck Miners. This was supposed to be no contest, but yet you acted foolishly to win it. Never make that same mistake, as it could cost you your pathetic lives." They both shook their heads in shame. "And you may have won that race. You're extremely lucky while you kept slowing down at each sharp turn. I appreciate your humbleness, but you still have failed miserably." "What? What do you mean? Where did I go wrong?" "Your comet was far too heavy when it landed after each jump plate. You need to make a longer distance and soar like a comet should. You're just a fallen meteor on that race." "But how?" Her mind shifted to the gap temporarily before Jim was able to snap her out of her reverie. "Tinsel! Daydreaming won't save you either. The mind must always be as sharp as a great white's tooth. I'm incredibly surprised you hadn't mastered it. Every pilot knows how to make longer jumps better than you can." "I don't understand this at all. How can any other racer soar more? This doesn't make any sense that everyone can make that gap except me." She told him about the incident 13 years ago. She never wanted to talk to anyone else about it, let alone a stranger. "And what makes you think you could win? You're the only one who never made it. I saw that accident on televid at that time. I was only starting out as an F-Zero pilot until I noticed Galaxy Dog wasn't getting a lot of monetary support. You're determined but fragile. You must be able to leap over troubling pits like this one." "You will show me? Could this really be my chance to overcome my worst fear?" "Don't get all emotional on me, Tinsel. I've already lost my empathy with my family. I can't let you make the situation at hand more intolerable than it is. Follow my lead, and I shall demonstrate." He brought over the little wyvern. It was nothing she had ever seen before. It was built very much like a fighter craft with its elongated wings, narrow sharp-pointed nose, and had a lustrous gray body. He parked beside the comet at the exact spot where the race began. He was the one who hit the jumps first, and he was almost literally flying, just like a miniature jet while the wings opened and closed. He stopped after the second hop and observed her. She was still sinking rapidly after each of the plates. She hesitated next to Jim, and she was so perplexed in how he was able to make longer ascents than her. "You need to raise the nose to make a lighter drop, and a longer leap. You have to hold back the bars as you make a tight grip, allowing the G diffuser to have less of an effect. Pushing the thrusters forward will cause the vehicle to land harder. You got that?" "I think so." Taking the lessons in mind, she thought about how she could use her newly acquired knowledge to cross the gap in the Whiteland track. She wasn't very thrilled at the thought, and it was best not to dwell on it. She went away for a few miles, turned back, and leapt over the pit. At that same time, she instantly yanked back the controls, allowing the comet to catch more air and land safely. She hardly even noticed the impact as she felt it was being lifted by a strong updraft. She was shocked by the performance, and she almost lost control. Vera Cakes were ecstatic that it really worked, as was Tinsel. "That's it!" However, she missed the other plate before she hit the dirt, slowing her down. "Made it! So this is how they do it." "Indeed." Tinsel looked up with shiny eyes. "Oh, how could I ever repay you?" "You already did. You and the Huck Miners paid me for these tedious dry runs." Tinsel didn't feel so bad. While she may have failed in the first session as Gomer and Shio succeeded, mastering the long jump was even better than anything else. They were returning to base to retry the bullet dodge until she heard a whispering noise after she exited the cockpit. She looked over and walked toward the silhouette hiding behind a dome-shaped war tent. She could barely make out the six-armed figure. He lowered his raised limbs as she treaded toward it. Octaman? Is that you? How did you get past security? She theorized that the place would definitely have plenty of safety protocols since Jim mentioned he needed the cash to defend against various intergalactic threats, including Darkmillion. Never mind how, Tinsel. Thinking she heard a sound, she looked back and saw nothing. What are you doing here? Listen, I followed all of you here. I know why you're training with James McCloud. I actually heard of your plight involving the finals and Rodney Stewart. Black Shadow means business. Heed my words, just in case I get caught in the Galaxy Dog's net. They're vicious. I was afraid you'd say that, as if their leader wasn't aggressive enough. According to the Takoran, James McCloud was a criminal. He warned her that he trained all F-Zero pilots, including those that were in the task force, as well as Darkmillion, making him a traitor to his cause. He's actually a mercenary, always caring about having money in his pocket, and never emphasizing for anyone he trains. The squadron he created, the Galaxy Dogs, helped the Federation to defend the universe. Yet working with the enemy made her very uneasy. She was so excited to show her friends what she could do, that she actually lost sight on who James McCloud was. She managed to escape avoiding all the spotlights, and she kept hiding herself from the cameras as she attempted to blend into the opaque compound. She looked up the intel inside the Comet. For the most part, much of James McCloud's story was true, but info on his machine revealed it had an E-level body strength, among the worst in its class, but it had a boost in grip strength in the B class. It was known as one of the modified fighter jets belonging to the Galaxy Dogs. Jim actually convinced Space Dynamics to make this contraption. James McCloud alone was the main suspect. She entered the area with the watchtower, and then she aimed her nozzles while she tried to dodge more bullets. She kept going around until she found her target. She shot out 2 ice beams, freezing the machine gun. This instantly disabled it, and Jim lost all control. You goddamn crotch-licking! Pilots heard the sergeant shouting and swearing unintelligibly inside. What did you do? You froze the machine gun. Let's just say that it's time for a little payback. James isn't the man he claims himself to be. He's nothing but a rebel to his own squadron and his trainees. What? Before she had the chance to explain, they saw him step up to the Comet. Tinsel exited and marched toward her new adversary wearing a face of hatred. I know all about the Galaxy Dogs. You're very canny, Jim. What the hell are you talking about? You think you're a fair soldier? I've seen your records thanks to 2 friends of mine. One of them knows what you've done on this home planet, and another obtained some data to prove it. You always believe that you and your squadron have a squeaky clean reputation and are all that at a bag of chips. You guys are nothing but scoundrels, only going for the gold. Literally. In other words, you worked for Darkmillion and caused nothing but sabotage over your own greed. How dare you say such blasphemy? You ungrateful slut! You should be thankful that I was the one who taught you to make longer leaps with your wasted machine. That machine happens to be made by the late Dr. Clash. Gave up his life for us. That infuriated Tinsel so much that all she wanted to do was destroy the corrupt man in front of her. That it was his mistake for creating it. Even I could do a far superior job than him. But no matter, since you're nothing but he pushed Tinsel a few inches back forcefully. Then he did it again and she lunged back. The Huck miners just stood there as they watched her right arm being bent in a dislocating fashion. Then James's face was splattered with a gooey substance. Her arm was free, though pretty sore. She did use her left arm and held out a pistol as Octaman appeared. Jim took off his soled shades, revealing his copper eyes, and grinding his teeth. Tinsel's innocent. She's not wrong. She was the one who donated a portion of her prize money to my homeworld, Cora. My people have been hunted down like dogs by the Federation, and it's always torn by bloodshed and poverty. You should know this by now since you too are a veteran, yet you follow a tainted path as you took advantage of the Galaxy Dogs and manipulated the platoon's belief about us. Our ways of living and our existence has been tarnished because of you. Wait till the task force hears about this. That put the treacherous man on edge. He actually went on his hind heels and slipped into the little wyvern. Octaman and Tinsel climbed into their corresponding machines and went on the pursuit as they saw their enemy leave the compound, kicking up sand in the idle faces of the extraterrestrials. Startled, they decided unanimously to alert the first person that they came to mind. Rick! Rick! You gotta help us! I hope Falcon's with you. He was lucky he was still inside the Dragon Bird. Simulation just began to run. Gomar? Shio? He listened on all the transpired events, putting him in a sense of utter shock. At once, Porttown's allies felt a gust of wind. The Silver Comet moved at lightning speed, avoiding the walls and careless pedestrians with only one target in mind. The Deep Claw was on her tail. The Wyvern actually slowed and bashed onto it to the point where sparks flew. Ow! Tinsel made a side attack. However, it caused a chain reaction that made the octopus skid and collide into a wall. The Wyvern was weak, but it managed to hang in there. Tinsel needed to find a way to cut him off. Otherwise she'd be goner if he should clip her. A ramp was visible to the right. She had to take it, or else she was forced to try her luck with a wider turn and lose even more time. For a moment, she saw the horrific Whiteland gap, but very quickly she put it out of her mind. She needed to be at her best if she was chasing down a criminal. At the incline, she felt her machine hop into the air, but she immediately knew what to do. She adjusted her control in the air, pulling the nose back, but she also made sure it wasn't lurched too far. As a result, she gained a bit of speed while keeping it quite level. Meanwhile, the little wyvern slowed down, anticipating her crashing onto the surface just before it. Yet that didn't happen. Silver Comet landed right onto the little wyvern's front and boosted right off of it. Quickly, she leaned over to the left in order to create a giant U-turn and block his further passage into the major streets. For a moment, Tinsel experienced some glee conquering it, but she remembered exactly what needed to be done. The cockpit opened up and she pulled out a gun. Freeze, scumbag! She shot out a volley of ice, freezing the wyvern gradually on contact. Jim managed to jump out of the cockpit as his precious machine made a few wipeouts and then exploded. Octaman grabbed the stunned pilot with all his inky, firm arms. Before James was apprehended by the platoon with his cruiser sirens wailing, he explained he used to have a close friend in the military named O'Donnell. They joined the army together, and Tinsel was astonished that it wasn't really the Air Force. They were on a mission soaring over some thick canopy. One evening they received orders to extract their men from an enemy base. They were in a massive air carrier, and it was attacked by bullets and firebombs. Rescue 101 has been hit. We're going down! Damn! They ran from the wreckage and wound up in an onslaught somewhere deep within the jungles. It was a perfect place for an ambush since it was so dark during the wee hours in the foreign terrain. James was injured from the crash. Then O'Donnell ran toward the group of terrorists, resulting in his demise. O'Donnell! No one saw me, so I was able to escape. That night changed my life forever. I never trusted anyone anymore. And neither could anyone ever trust you. You have no soul, McCloud. We were nothing but tools here. The officers loaded him in the slammer. Jim was relieved that his family wasn't there to see this humiliation. Being that he lost a close friend during a combat mission and abandoned his men in the process, Tinsel felt that he actually lost himself. that he no longer cared about his new cadets or only using them for his financial gain. He had no heart nor any values, not even his own wife and son. All he does go for was cold hard cash, since he didn't seem to give a damn that Dark Million is a threat to the galaxy. As the hero saw Jim being pulled away permanently, Tinsel wondered what would become of his squadron. She never felt so torn. One day, you will find atonement for what you've done. She shielded her eyes while she was blinded by the bright lights ahead. She could barely make out the Blue Falcon and the Dragon Bird in the distance. The two pilots ran to her. "Are you all right?" "Yeah, we were going to save you." "From what?" Rick and Falcon heard a distress call from Gomer and Shio and discovered there had been an accident somewhere in the back streets. By trusting their instincts, they followed the trail. It was actually both Tinsel and Octaman who stopped James McCloud in that fierce hunt. Falcon filled in the gaps. Because of James's criminal activity, his son Todd will take his place as squadron leader and leave his father strained. Thanks to Falcon, even the commissioner was convinced from the cephalopod's redemption. James's fate remained unknown because, due to his treachery, he would either serve a very hefty prison time and/or a permanent cold sleep in planet Alcatraz. Rick was very surprised that a former traitor managed to put a stop to a spy for Dark Million. "Looks like we owe you one, Octaman, especially for what you did when you prevented Miss Killer from winning at the Cosmo Terminal." "We'll settle on this later, Wheeler. We do have the championship after all." "Octaman, could you make a promise? Will you be there and root for us when we march on for the title?" He accepted with a wink and drove elsewhere in a deep claw. Duelists recently briefed in they will go with them and put their monsters on standby like they did last year in case Black Shadow and his minions would cause another accident. Because of Jim's absence, Tinsel freely invited Falcon, Rick, and the Fear Cakes to the advanced version of the old circuit. Rick was impressed that the Comet was able to make a longer leap than it did before, and the twin Narita mastered its tactics on misdirection and agility. After the race with Falcon as the victor, she explained that it was Jim who taught them before Octaman and Clank unveiled his true colors. She was a little miffed they knew them before. They knew how to make longer distances, and they didn't tell her how. Rick assumed she already knew, but sadly she didn't. He wondered if she could use that same technique and offered her to try it at Whiteland. She immediately turned sour. "No, no! I'm not going back there! I am not going back there! I am not going back there!" She shook her head. Nope! The last thing she wanted was to re-experience the course she had long dreaded for over a decade. Tinsel never wanted to go back, at least not until Black Shadow would be defeated for good, much as the perpetrator having his tail between his ironized legs. Just knows the trope: canon foreigner, canon immigrants. Hopefully these characters will become them. Hopefully they'll have an appearance in Smash Bros, which they didn't. This is actually non-canon info. James McCloud is only a mercenary and didn't really design the Port Town courses. It would be quite interesting if he did, though, including the UFO and used for the Grand Prix 13 years prior. And here he was the architect of both things, and his technicians from the Galaxy Dogs built the two courses and the spacecraft. Duelists made an appearance again, but I wasn't really into the latter seasons, as the dragons may give you a hint. It just became more and more complicated as the show went on, and I was a casual fan. Last course is Lightning Thunder Road. Shout out to the Grand Prix in GX, the AX Cup. You can unlock it with a memory card, but it's only from those rare arcade cabinets. I never experienced them personally, and I missed out. However, again, it was thanks to Ephraim's LP, and I saw Outer Space, which ironically was the same course featured in the anime during the Crystal Cup, rather the Christmas Cup in Japanese. Never a huge fan of James McCloud. He is a Star Fox reference, but he's more of a scoundrel than anything else. He lost himself, and cash was the only driving force, not friendship, not love for his family, not even his heart. He's an underwhelming pilot to use. His fate is unknown. He serves his very long prison, or perhaps even cold sleep. So another exhausting lap done. It was a complete drag to make, involving James and the Galaxy Dogs. Now it's finally off to the glorious championship. See you then. Alright, see you guys at the championship.